Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is Open Mic. Now, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we take a little bit of time and take live questions from the audience. But here on Open Mic, that's all we do, just all open, live, open mic questions all day, and that's what we're going to do here today. It is Sunday, and I hope you guys have had a fabulous weekend so far, and I hope you have a nice, relaxing balance of your weekend planned out so you can get ready to conquer the week to come. With that stuff out of the way, guys, we got a lot of stuff to talk about here today. Saw a great UFC card here last night. Had a bunch of friends over watch it, including Dennis and Soul Video, and a bunch of guys came over. Had a good time watching the fights. And now we're going to have a good time talking about some movies and television, any other stuff you guys want to talk about. So let's dive right into it. All right, let's get things going here. And we're going to start things off with O+98, who writes, did Ben Affleck and Chris Terrio had anything to do with the Batman vs. Superman script besides Snyder? Unfair to put the whole blame on the failure of Batman vs. Superman on Snyder. Well, there's a couple of things there to get at. Number one, that you can never put all the blame or all the credit for any one movie. You can never put all the blame or all the credit on any one person. You never can. That would be insane. Movies take hundreds, sometimes thousands of people to pull together and to make and bring to life. Now, and also, the thing is, the failure of Batman versus Superman. Well, let's take a look at that for a second. Batman versus Superman, was it a failure? I mean, look, there's two different things. Was it a disappointment and was it a failure? Those are two different questions, right? Was it a disappointment? Yes, I think you can say it's a disappointment. A lot of the audience didn't like it. A lot of the critics didn't like it. It didn't make as much money as it possibly should have made. But that's one question. Was it a disappointment? I like the film, by the way, but there's a lot of people who didn't, so Warner Brothers is a little disappointed by that. It's another question entirely to ask whether it was a failure. Because while maybe it didn't make the amount of money that maybe it should have made, you can't deny that it made an ass load of money. The movie made $873 million at the box office. That's profitable. As much as profitable as they wanted? No, probably not, but it's still profitable. So I don't think we should make the terms disappointment and failure synonymous. They're not synonymous. They're two different things, right? So anyway, disappointing, yes. Failure, I wouldn't go so far as to call it a failure per se, but it did have its shortcomings. Now back to the first part of the question again. Can that all be blamed on Zack Snyder? No, absolutely not. But, I had this debate online, going back between me, Seth Rogen, James Gunn, the whole bit, where I kind of made a point with, for instance, Justice League. I said, you can't put all the blame of bad visual effects on the director. He's not the one sitting there doing the rotoscoping and doing the modeling and doing the animation and the character rigging. The director's not the one doing that. You got to rely on some point on other people to do their jobs. And that was the point I was trying to make. But, a lot of other people, including a Seth Rogen, including James Gunn, jumped on and said, well, look, at the bottom line, though, it is the director's responsibility. It's the director's responsibility to see what is there and to correct it if it needs to be corrected. It's the director's job. Now, I think there are extenuating circumstances for sure. So can you say all the blame is Zack Snyder's? No, but he was the one in the director's chair. And at the end of the day, it's the director who gets most of the praise and the director who gets most of the blame when things don't go as planned. But you're absolutely right to suggest that not all of it should be placed on the feet of Zack Snyder. Absolutely. There's a lot of people involved. Absolutely there is. So anyway, that's just kind of my thoughts on that. All right. Jay Bling writes, Frank Grillo has joined the Hitman's Bodyguard sequel, and allegedly so have Morgan Freeman and Antonio Banderas. Admittedly, the first movie wasn't great, but I think a sequel could work better. I'll tell you what, Jay Bling, I'll go one step further. I liked the first Hitman's Bodyguard. Was it as kind of great as I was hoping it would be? No, probably can't say it was all that great, per se. But I had a lot of laughs. And that's what Hitman's Bodyguard is. It's primarily a comedy that also has some action. And I laughed a lot in the movie. I had a lot of laughs. And if you're a comedy and you can deliver a good amount of laughs, then a lot of the other shortcomings get overlooked. And there were a number of shortcomings in Hitman's Bodyguard for sure. But it also delivered a lot of laughs, and that covers up a lot of the other shortcomings and mistakes. Even though I liked Hitman's Bodyguard, I thought it was an odd choice to do a sequel. I do. I continue to believe it's an odd choice to do a sequel. But I'm down for it. I'm absolutely down for it. And you put Frank Grillo in it, I'm down for it. If Antonio Banderas is in it, I'm down for it. If Morgan Freeman's in it, I'm down for it. Whatever. Because I did like the first one. I do wonder if it's a good idea to do the second one, but if you do it, I'll be there and check it out for sure because I enjoyed myself the first time around. All right. Curtis Lopez writes, my Game of Thrones theories. Jon and Dany are on the throne. Sansa and Bree live. Arya, Tyrion, the Hound, and I can always forget how you pronounce the giant girl's name. Brienne have heroic deaths. Cersei turns to a White Walker. Jaime tries to kill her but dies. And Sansa ends up killing her. Jon, of course, kills the Night King. I do not think Jon and Dany end up on the throne. I don't think Dany makes it to the end of the show. I don't think Dany even lives, let alone sitting on the throne. I'm not so sure that Dany ends up sitting on the throne, let alone makes it to the end of the show. I think she dies. As a matter of fact, now I'm not basing this on anything. This is pure wild fan speculation. But I actually believe she dies, and she even dies before the last episode. I believe, like, in the 6 episodes coming, I have a feeling that she dies about, I don't know, maybe episode 3 or episode 4. Out of the 6 episodes, I think she dies in, like, episode 3 or episode 4. So anyway, that's kind of my guess. Now, as far as the other ones, clearly I think Game of Thrones is a show that has had a lot of people die. Game of Thrones is a show that's had a lot of people die. So, anyway, so I think it goes without saying that there's going to be a number of characters that are there that will not make it to the end. Look, I'm starting to buy more and more into Tyrion ending up on the throne. I mean, he drinks and he knows things. So, I don't know. There's a lot of theories, and a lot of theories are going to get smashed, and a lot of theories are going to get smashed and in the first episode. I think a lot of fan theories are going to get completely destroyed in the first episode, and probably a lot of my fan theories too. So we're getting close to there. We're going to find out soon enough, Curtis. All right. Andrew Garfield writes, have you seen LeBron's show on HBO, The Shop? No, I have not. I haven't. I'm a big fan of LeBron James as a basketball player, but it's not like I follow him around and watch all the stuff that he does. So, no, I have not seen the show, The Shop. I've seen ads for it, but I've never gotten around to watching it. Willow Yang writes, can the USS Enterprise take on a Star Destroyer? It depends who's writing it. No. I think the real fair answer is no. The USS Enterprise cannot take on a Star Destroyer. But if you had, I don't know, Robert Meyer Burnett writing the episode, maybe the Enterprise wins. If you have somebody else who's a big Star Trek fan writing it, maybe the Enterprise wins. It comes down to who's writing it. That determines who wins. In my opinion, the Star Destroyer is just in its own fictitious world designed as a bigger, badder kind of ship. But hey, but I'm primarily a Star Wars fan, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. Okay. Ricardo Ramirez writes, thoughts on the Green Hornet starring Seth Rogen? You know what? Not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought it had some upside. I did. And I remember I was talking to Seth Rogen about it, and I was like, and I told him straight up, I have video of this. I told him straight up, I said, look, I'll be honest with you. I was one of those guys who said, Seth Rogen and a Green Hornet movie, that's dumb. And I actually kind of dug it. I didn't think it was great. Don't get me wrong. I didn't think it was great by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought it was a better film than it had any business being. A couple of big, glaring, obvious problems with it, but it, I didn't think it was horrible. Ryan Lohner writes, Norman Lear is pushing 100 and still the sitcom king, loving One Day at a Time. I've never seen One Day at a Time. I've had some few people writing in, Ryan, ask me about One Day at a Time. I don't even know what it is. There's that. I don't even know what it is. I remember there was some kind of old show that I also didn't watch called One Day at a Time. So I don't know if it's a revival of that or something else entirely. I still don't know what it is. So there's that. Okay. Vashino Zin writes, strange, we're in the Endgame now. Is the R suggestive that the Endgame has already begun? I think so. Yeah, well, like, at least to me, when I hear him say we're in the Endgame now, that the Endgame has already begun. It's like, I think the metaphysical Endgame began the moment Thor went and got the Power Stone from Xandar. I think once Thanos went and decimated Xandar and got the Power Stone, that was the beginning of the Endgame. And that's something that Doctor Strange then points out in Infinity War. Now, what he means beyond that, we're going to have to wait a couple months to find out. But yeah, I believe we're in the Endgame already. Vashno Zin follows up with, the win won't be in the reality that we saw. It is possible the heroes couldn't encounter different versions of themselves. Ultron is Vision, HK as Ronan. No, I don't think so. At any rate, anything's possible. I don't think so. I think now you're getting a little bit too comic book nerdy convoluted for the general movie-going audience if you start getting into all that stuff, and I don't think they will. Here's what I think. I think what the resolution in Endgame is going to be is, number one, a simpler resolution than we might think it's going to be. And number two, it's going to be a resolution that none of us are expecting. I think it's going to be something that maybe not any of us, but I think it's going to end up being something that not a lot of us are expecting, but also it's going to end up being something that's a lot simpler than what because I'm seeing a lot of theories, right? There's going to be 6 dimensions, and in one dimension this is happening, and then there's going to be a convergence of those dimensions, and I'm seeing like some really wild theories that are really convoluted, and sometimes those are good. But some theories that are really convoluted and multidimensional and all this, all over the stuff, I think it's going to be something that a lot of us aren't expecting, and is actually a simpler thing than a lot of us think it may be. So whether that's true or wildly wrong, we will know soon enough. We will know soon enough as we get closer and closer to Endgame. And by the way, Captain Marvel opens this week. We may start getting some answers in Captain Marvel. We might start getting a little bit of insight and a little bit of hints once we see Captain Marvel. Maybe not, but let's find out. Okay. Ant Banks, 1984 writes, yesterday, Ben Rayner asked, your chances Marvel doesn't show a second Endgame trailer. Before you answer completely, you pause and look to your left, probably because you saw Marvel Sniper LOL. I am not going to comment on that. I apologize, Ant, but I'm not going to comment on anything. Look, let's just say this. I believe there is going to be another Endgame trailer. But, come on. That's no news flash. Everybody knows there's going to be another Endgame trailer, right? So there's no some kind of big secret uncovered scoop. Everybody knows there's going to be another Endgame trailer. So let's not read too much into that. There is going to be another Endgame trailer. Count on it. Bet on it. Okay. Anyway, Edwin Arzola writes, hey, John, finally caught up watching all your videos. That's a lot of videos, man. With work, school, wife, and kids. I try to catch up when I can. Thank you for your hard work. Well, thank you so much, Edwin. I really appreciate that. And by the way, guys, I've been mentioning this. I will mention it again. I'll bring in this picture just in case you haven't seen it. I mean, it's nothing big. It's just a little thing here. But on top of all the other stuff that I do, for a number of months, myself, Cody Miller, the Olympic gold medal swimmer, you've seen him on my show a number of times, and Robert Meyer Burnett, we've been talking for months about doing a straight up podcast. And I let my Patreon supporters know the other day, and I'm letting everybody else know today, that next week, our brand new podcast starts. It's a weekly podcast called Best Movie, Worst Movie. And the basic gist of the new show is every week we're going to have a different topic. So some of the opening topics for the show we're going to have, like every week is going to be one topic. So One topic will be the movies of the DCEU. Another week, the topic is going to be the movies of 2012. Another one will be the movies of Jennifer Lawrence. And so anyway, each week will be one main topic. And then what the three of us are going to do is we're each going to put forward our pick for the best movie and the worst movie of that category. And we're going to debate it out and try to come down to one. I think some weeks we'll come down to, yes, we all came with different picks, but we've decided best one is this. Some weeks we aren't going to come to a consensus. Who knows? But I think it is going to be a lot of fun. And, Cody and I have been talking for a long time about trying to do some kind of show together. Me and Robert started talking about bringing Cody into doing something like this. Again, this was months ago. And we really think this would be a fun one to do. And we decided we would do a podcast because right now I'm not doing any straight up podcasting. I mean, I do a podcast every week for my Patreon supporters called Best of the Week. And me and Robert do that for our Patreon supporters on Fridays. But I'm not doing just a general open to everybody straight up podcast. And we wanted to do that, and I'm looking forward to it. And the first episode drops next week. I hope you guys will join us for it. Make sure you subscribe to it on whatever podcast app you use, iTunes or Podpicker or whatever podcasting software you use. Make sure you vote for it, that you comment on it, that you subscribe to it, all that kind of stuff. And it would be a great help. So there, just let you guys know a little bit of that. So thanks for bringing that up a lot, Edwin. I really appreciate it. And thank you for watching the shows, man. All right, let's move on here. Ben Heyusa writes, let's see. Where did he go? There he is. I just want to say happy Mardi Gras from here in New Orleans. That's amazing. I work in the city and it gets wild. Hate it. Too many drunks and large crowds. Working weekends. I have always wanted to go to Mardi Gras. It sucks. My parents have been to Mardi Gras, but I have not been to Mardi Gras. Actually, straight up, I've never even been to New Orleans. And I would love to go to New Orleans. I would love. And I know I always say it wrong. Is it Nolans? Is that how you're supposed to say it? I don't know. I don't know how you're supposed to say it. So New Orleans is how I've always said it. I've always wanted to go. I can only imagine it must get kind of crazy. Because that reminds me a little bit of Comic-Con, right? San Diego Comic-Con. It brings a lot of money into the city, all that kind of stuff. But the people who live there hate it when it's happening. Because it disrupts the entire city. I got to imagine it must be the same thing for New Orleans at the same time. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, my first novel has some striking similarities to Spider-Verse and was released just a couple of weeks before. So now I have to explain to everyone that I wasn't ripping it off. You know what, Ryan? I had an exact similar situation happen. Exact same similar situation happen. I did my little movie that was called The Anniversary. And in the movie, a dude is, our lead character, is trying online dating. And he goes to, and there's a little montage of various online dates he goes on. And it gets to this one part where the camera is on him holding a picture. Let's say this little remote control is a picture. And the camera's right here. You don't see anything else but what's on this picture. And it's a picture of this younger woman. And then the picture falls down out of frame and you see the person sitting there who is clearly about 20 years older than in the picture, right? And that was one of the scenes in my movie, The Anniversary. So while me and Chuck Norris is actually the name of my editor. That's his real name, Chuck Norris. So while me and Chuck were working on editing the movie, he and I one day went to go see I Love You, Man. We went to go see I Love You, Man. So this is going back a number of years. It's the Jason Segel, Paul Rudd comedy that I love. That movie's so funny. But anyway, and we're watching it, and sure enough, they do the exact same thing. He's going to meet a buddy. Like instead of doing online dating, the Paul Rudd character is trying to meet new friends, right? And sure enough, they do the exact same thing. Camera in on the picture of a young guy, drops the picture, and there's a much older guy sitting there, and who's very different. And Chuck and I are sitting there in the audience, and then we just kind of look at each other and go, oh my God. And sure enough, I had to, when I put my movie out finally, people were like, oh, did you get that joke idea from I Love You, Man? It's like, no, we shot that before I Love You, Man ever came out. Anyway, so I had the exact same experience, Ryan. I totally know what you're talking about. But look, in the world of creativity, there's going to be many things you do that's completely original to you, but that it turns out somebody has tried or done at some point before. That's just the nature of things. So don't worry about it too much, although I know it's a little bit frustrating when it happens. All right. Senpaigar writes, Mark Hamill is in season 2 of Nightfall. I don't even know what Nightfall is. Hold on a second. What is Nightfall? Let me look this up. Man, I know Nightfall is the name of a very famous Batman series of comics. It's where Batman gets his back broken. Oh, it's some kind of like, literally, it's Nights. And look at that. Right on the cover of IMDb, there's a Mark Hamill picture. I don't know this show. I don't know the show at all. I don't even know where it is. It doesn't have the highest rating. That's okay. I'll have to check it out at some point. But I have no idea even where this show is. I don't know if this is a Netflix show or an HBO show or an Amazon show or an NBC show. I have no idea. But if Mark Hamill's in it, I might have to give it a shot. Ben Hayusa writes, also playing the soundtracks from Spider-Verse at work, John. That movie and soundtrack are just a masterpiece to me. What's Up, Danger? I love that soundtrack. I'm telling you, for weeks, every time I get in my car, I can't say too loud because I've got a Google Home back there. So I get in my car and I just say to my phone, okay, Google, play Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack. And that's it. And I'll just listen to the soundtrack on my way to wherever it is I'm going. It's such a good soundtrack. And the funny thing is, I've mentioned this before, but my favorite song from the movie isn't even on the soundtrack. My favorite song, and I'll look up the name of it here in a second. The name of the song is Want It Here, okay? Spider-Verse, Want It Here. I can't remember the name of the group that does it. The name of the group that does it is Xenia Pax. Okay, it's Xenia Pax. And I don't know, I shouldn't do this because you're not supposed to do this, but let me just play this for a second, see if I can get any, hold on a second. It's Penny Parker's theme, all right? It's Penny Parker's theme. And it's my favorite piece of music in the entire movie, and it's not on the soundtrack. I have no idea why. I have no clue why they wouldn't put that on the soundtrack, because it's awesome, and they don't have it on the soundtrack at all. And I have no idea why they wouldn't put it there. It's crazy. But yes, it is a marvelous, marvelous soundtrack. It's fantastic. I dig it. And it just kind of embodies everything about the movie. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. I dig it. And it's all sorts of good things. Okay, let's move on to the next thing here. Richard Karate writes, could we get an AC/DC biopic? Your thoughts? Of course we could. Why couldn't we? We could. I have no idea if their lives are interesting at all. I have no idea if there's anything remotely interesting enough about them to make a movie about. I just don't know. I don't know much about AC/DC, other than the fact that my cover band used to play a bunch of their songs. Because every band used to play a bunch of AC/DC songs. But sure, why not? I mean, I'm sure we could. Chris Warden writes, like a fine wine that just gets better with age, both Julia Roberts and Nicole Kidman look stunning as ever at 51 years old. Woo, you ain't kidding, man. I mean, Julia Roberts, first of all, she comes out at the Oscars, looks amazing. And Nicole Kidman in Aquaman, it's like, damn, like these women just look more, there's something, there are certain people, men or women, who, when they get older, that sophistication part just kind of hits their complexion and hits them, that just makes them look even more regal, more beautiful. I mean, I don't know what it is. There's some men that happens. Clooney's a great example of that for men. Pitt just looks better with age as well. And then there are women that do as well. And yeah, absolutely, man. Kidman and Roberts are great examples of that. Okay. Lee Edworthy writes, let's hope they don't do a repeat of Age of Ultron when Cap's about to say Avengers Assemble and then cuts to credits. Hopefully he says it in Endgame. Well, I mean, I don't think there's anything for us to worry about, Lee, that the movie will end with Captain America saying Avengers Assemble. I don't think there's any worry that that's how that movie will end. A lot of people don't even believe that Captain America will even be alive A lot of people don't even believe that Captain America will be alive at the end of at the end of why am I freezing? Endgame. A lot of people don't even believe that he'll be alive at the end of Endgame. But even if he is, which I think there's a strong possibility he will be alive, you don't end the movie like that. Like, you already did that with Ultron. That's fine. All I want. Now, I keep saying, guys, don't go into a movie with a bunch of check boxes that the movie has to do for you. But I will admit, I do have a... I'm going to go into Endgame completely clean, but deep down in my subconscious, I'm like, say Avengers Assemble. Have Captain America say Avengers Assemble. Please have Captain America. I'm going to be doing that. Yes, I will. Although if he doesn't, I'm not going to let it ruin my movie experience at all. But I think he'll say it. I think they teased it earlier. I think we're 23 movies into the MCU. We haven't heard it said yet. If they're going to say it, it's going to be an Endgame. And I believe he will. And the audiences will go crazy when they do. And if they don't, that's fine. But I think there's a good chance they will. But they certainly won't tease it at the end like they did with Ultron. All right. Murray Reich writes, I find green band versions of the original are lacking the R rating feel, i.e. Deadpool and Hellboy 2019 just only show red bands in front of R movies. I don't know about that. Look, honestly, I've seen red band trailers to R-rated movies where the green band trailers were much better, quite frankly. And I think you can, look, if you know a movie's an R-rated movie, you can communicate the tone of a movie in a green band trailer. I believe you 100% can. I don't believe there's any need to, well, if you're in front of an R-rated movie, put out an R-rated trailer. Just because they have R-rated material in the trailer doesn't mean it's a better trailer than another cut that just happens to be a green band trailer. I don't believe that at all. Not in the least. Now, do I get a kick out of red band trailers? Absolutely I do. But I don't think having a red band trailer automatically means better trailer. I don't believe that any more than I think if you make a movie darker, that automatically makes the movie better. I don't believe that either. I believe every movie is different. Every marketing campaign is different. Every trailer is different. So even if you have an R-rated movie, sometimes a green band trailer will be the best option for you. So yeah, I just don't believe that. Are there times that it would benefit? Absolutely. But should there be one blanket rule for it? No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. All right. DC Patience writes, redeemed digital codes for all Blu-rays last night. Tell Robert some expire, aka Spider-Man Homecoming. Expires on December 31st, 2019 if you don't claim them. That is good to know because, we've been talking a lot on the channel lately about the fact that, Blu-rays are now disappearing. They're going to be gone soon. The sales of Blu-ray discs have been dropping like rocks in water. The sales of Blu-ray players have been dropping like rocks in water. And now the biggest producer of Blu-ray players, Samsung, has just announced they're not going to make Blu-ray players anymore. Oppo already did that, and the other companies are going to follow suit. So we've been talking a bunch the last couple of days around the channel of, well, what should you do if you have a bunch of Blu-rays? Like, what do you do? And D, I think you raise an incredibly important point. If you have a Blu-ray collection, not all of them will have digital redemption codes, but a bunch of them probably do. I think it's really important because once it's not like they're going to disappear tomorrow, but once they start, once these digital codes expire, you're kind of screwed. So make sure you get your digital copies of these movies that you're entitled to, because once Blu-rays, start to disappear and all you got is that physical disc and it gets scratched or lost or borrowed by somebody and then you lose, then you're screwed. Redeem those digital codes. I think that's a really good point, D, and that's something everybody who has a lot of Blu-rays, I think you need to get on that and start paying attention to that because, like D said, some of them start to expire. Get that done. All right. Dirk Diggler writes, hi, John. I hope you are doing well. I am doing well, Dirk. Thank you for asking. I hope that for Star Wars 9, we finally get to see C-3PO get a heroic scene and outshines R2-D2, or at least a pivotal action. LOL, stop making fun of C-3PO for a change. Well, but that's the nature of the character, right? Like, he's not a hero per se. And by the way, C-3PO He had heroic actions in Star Wars: A New Hope. Remember, there were a couple of times that he actually did kind of save everybody, particularly the trash compactor part. But that's his role is not to be a hero. His role is to be a companion, an advisor, and a little bit of comic relief. So that's his role. I don't know that the thing to do is to go outside the nature of the character and have him do something that's really not in the nature of the character. Like, don't get me wrong. If J.J. Abrams comes out with a great idea for a great scene with 3PO that has him do something that saves the day, great. But it's got to fit. It's got to fit in with the nature of the character and what the role of the character is. Otherwise, it's going to feel awkward. And let's face it, they have tried to do things and sometimes they've tried to make too much comic relief out of C-3PO, which is also not in the nature of the character, and that just feels forced and awkward. If they try to go like heroic or whatever, I'm worried that might feel forced and awkward too. Depends. If JJ comes up with the right idea and how to execute it, maybe. So, I don't know. I got a feeling with episode 9, JJ is going to pull out all the stops, and maybe we'll see some things that we're not expecting. Who knows? Lee Edworthy writes, Morning, John. What are your favorite fight scenes in the MCU? For me, it's Ant-Man versus Yellow Jacket and the fight with Thanos on Titan. Somebody asked me that the other day, Lee. Honestly, still to this day, it's the airport scene in Civil War. The airport scene in Civil War, because you had so much going on, but it wasn't just a lot of different characters fighting. There was some really great stuff going on in those fights. In particular, go back and watch as Spider-Man is engaging Falcon and Winter Soldier. And you almost have to watch those engagements in slow motion almost to really appreciate all the stuff that's really going on screen. That is just fantastic. And I love it. But the whole fight is filled with all that type of stuff. You see, and every character seems to have their moment to shine. Somehow, some way, the Russos in that one fight sequence figured a way to let every character shine. Now, there are other great fight scenes, obviously, in the MCU. Absolutely. You name a couple of the great ones. But for me, it still remains that fight at the airport in Germany in Civil War. It's just one of the most incredible, awe-inspiring things I've ever seen, particularly out of a comic book movie. All right. Damian Davies writes, Netflix offered Blockbuster last decade to purchase them for $50 million. They were laughed out of the office. Netflix worth $19 billion, epic fail. Yeah, that is one of the great... Whenever you go back in a lot of monster businesses, you'll find so-and-so had an opportunity to own this or to be bought out by this and blah, and they didn't, and it becomes a big thing. Blockbuster, here's the thing about Blockbuster. Blockbuster, they thought, now don't get me wrong, Blockbuster understood that the times were changing. Blockbuster understood this. But they thought they could approach the digital streaming world on their own and in their own way and on their own terms. The problem is Netflix already kind of introduced the best way to do it. Blockbuster, even when Netflix was still just a DVD service, before Netflix even really started doing a lot of streaming, they were a straight up DVD service. Tell us which 3 movies you want. We mail them to you. Once you mail them back, we physically mail out 3 more to you. And so you always got these movies going. So Blockbuster thought they could replicate that. And they thought because we have brick and mortar stores, we can do more than Netflix can. We can say, hey, and you can bring them back into a Blockbuster yourself. And if you bring them and return them yourself, we'll even give you a bonus disc. And they thought they could do it. But the problem was it was already identified with Netflix. And you already started to see diminishing values for things like Blockbuster. And then when the streaming thing all started to happen, they tried to replicate that as well. It was just all too late. But yes, Damien, that will go down as one of the biggest oopsies in history. And to be honest, let's look at it this way too. If a deal had been done, history would have unfolded differently, right? There's no guarantee. Like, if that deal happened, there's no guarantee everything else would have then transpired the way it did. There's no guarantee that Netflix would be worth $50 today, let alone, 17, $18 billion, right? So it could have changed the course of everything. So maybe it was the best. I mean, I don't know, but that is certainly one of the big case studies everybody will look at and go, oh my God, really? They had a chance to do that? Kind of like people who had a chance to buy Apple when it was really cheap. Spencer Smothers writes, do you have any ideas as to who Red is from Blacklist? No, I don't. I do believe he is her father. I do believe he is Agent Keen's father, but other than that, I don't know. Look, I'll say this. I like this season of Blacklist. I do, but they are dragging this storyline out way too long. They need to wrap this up and move on to other things because they're dragging this one out too long. J Sop 4 writes, favorite display of heroes' power / skill set in a comic book movie. Mine was probably Wonder Woman No Man's Land scene or Captain Winter Soldier opening scene. I don't know about either of those, because really, I mean, I quite enjoyed Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman, and it was a good scene. But as far as Wonder Woman running out with her shield and blocking bullets against regular mortal men, just shooting guns at her, I don't know that would be even in my top 30 greatest scenes of a hero really showing off their power. Like, I don't know that would cross out. Or even that opening scene with Captain America in Winter Soldier. I don't think that one would fall in there either. I think of more grand exhibits of their power. Something out of Man of Steel. Something out of Thor. Thor Ragnarok, when he's after he has this conversation with his father about, well, are you the god of hammers or the god of lightning or the god of thunder? And he comes out with the blue lightning in his face and he's smashing things left, right, and center. I think of more scenes like that. Now, which would be the grandest one? I don't know. I'd have to think about that. It might be Hulk in Avengers when Captain America turns to Hulk, goes, Hulk, smash. And he just goes nuts, flying from building to building, just ripping Chitauri apart and even getting on the giant worms and killing the giant flying worms with one punch, stuff like that. So those are the things that kind of come to mind for me. Murray Reich writes, Robert Kraft has now added a 7th ring, a.k.a. prostitution ring. Well, Robert Kraft is not into the prostitution ring. He flew to Florida to go get a rub and tug. I will still never understand that. Like, if you got a private jet and you can fly anywhere in the world and you really badly want to get a massage with a happy ending, why go to Florida? Why not just go to Nevada where it's legal and regulated? Why not just do that? I don't get it. Like, why are some really, really rich people so completely stupid? Why are some incredibly intelligent people have moments of incredible stupidity? I just don't get it. It's, Robert, what are you doing, man? Anyway, Spencer Smothers writes, I think Red is Masha. Really? Oh, I disagree. That would be quite the twist. That would be quite a hell of a twist. But I believe Masha was with Red when he was getting, I think they've already said in the show, Masha was with him as he was getting his appearance change. So I don't even know that fits. But I mean, if they do, that's a wild plot twist that nobody will see coming for sure, Spencer. All right. Murray Reich writes, I was thinking of a suggestion. Maybe the next live weekly hero could also be spoiler discussion to the Umbrella Academy or Different Day Better. Oh no, we've already said Robert and I will do a spoiler discussion of the Umbrella Academy, but we're not going to do that on a regular weekly hero because then people who don't want to be spoiled for Umbrella Academy can't watch, right? It has to be a separate video. So we will get around to doing that. Hopefully before we do a spoiler discussion for Captain Marvel, because obviously we're going to do a spoiler discussion for Captain Marvel as well. But yeah, we'll get around to doing Umbrella Academy, but not on a weekly hero because then people can't watch the weekly hero if they don't want to be spoiled, right? So there's that. Let's see. Mike Hill, was Bruce Lee the best martial artist to ever live? No. He's the most famous to ever live, but not the best to ever live. ZOMG Ruler writes, some say Disney buy their own tickets to boost box office. Yeah, they're morons. They don't do that. Comic Doctor, and by the way, Warner Brothers doesn't do that. Paramount doesn't do that. Universal doesn't do that. I mean, sometimes they'll buy out theaters to have like special screenings for things in groups of people, but that represents such a small drop, tiniest fraction of a drop in the bucket when any of these studios do that, because that doesn't help them. That doesn't help them in the least. Why spend $20 million just to say our movie didn't get $90 million, it got $110 million? Why spend $20 million to do that? That's stupid. You would be an idiot to do that. Like, you would be a monumental moron to do that. Because other than, oh, that sounds cool, that's worth $20 million? No. That's absolutely insanity. They cost $5 million to buy a promo spot on the Super Bowl. And you think like some studio, whether it's Disney or Warner Brothers or anybody else, is going to drop $20 million just so they can say, oh, our opening weekend was this. How does that help them? Now they're just out another $20 million. It's one of the most idiotic, stupid things I've ever heard anybody suggest. It is not true. Because you'd have to be an idiot to do it in the first place. There's no benefit. There's no benefit to it. I'm not saying, oh, the Hollywood studios are too morally righteous to ever do that. I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting you'd have to be a moron to do that, because there's no benefit. There's no real benefit. There's certainly not $20 million worth of benefit. Idiotic proposition. Absolutely idiotic proposition. Anyway, Comic Doctor writes, John, please never make me toast. Yeah, for those of you who might know what he's talking about when I made the joke the other day about the toaster. If you didn't, go back and watch another episode. But I will sanitize my toaster just to make you feel better, Comic Doctor, just to make you feel better. All right. Damian Davies writes, I saw The Last Jedi on the cinema and loved it. My boss asked for a one-word response to the movie before he went himself. I answered divisive. And it is. I mean, there's no way around it. It's a divisive film for sure. Now, divisive is better than awful, because that's when everybody does it. Look, a lot of people love The Last Jedi. A lot of people hate it. It is by nature, by very definition, The Last Jedi is a divisive film for sure. And they can't afford to have two divisive films in a row. You can't, not everybody loved The Force Awakens, but the vast majority of people did, and that's not divisive at all. The vast majority of people loved Rogue One. It is not divisive. The Last Jedi is a divisive film. Make no mistake, it really is. And I wish I could say I loved it. But, I remember when I came out of The Last Jedi, my very first social media response, when I walked out of the theater and I was heading to the after party, because I was at the premiere for it, and I was walking to the after party, I said, look, I like this movie. It's good. But I really didn't like this, and I really didn't like this, and I really didn't like this. And I talked a lot about how I felt they misused Finn and Rose's character. I felt like they misused Benicio del Toro character. I didn't like anything on Canto Bight. And that was the very first reaction I wrote when I came out. My very first social media post coming out of that movie was on that. I still like the film because I love what they did with Luke Skywalker. I loved a number of the elements of it, but I think you're right. It is a divisive film, no doubt about it. Let's see. Richard Karate writes, do you think we could get a live-action Titan AE movie anytime soon? Would love to see this movie with the CGI they have available today. It would be epic. I don't think so. I don't think that's one they would do. I would be with you, Richard, in that I'd be there to go see it for sure. I don't know that they would ever feel they could make that a profitable movie. Maybe they could. I'd certainly be intrigued, and I would certainly be down for it. But I mean, and look, and every movie is up for grabs. Especially every animated movie is totally fair game for a live action remake. And certainly that's all the rage right now, taking old animated stuff, making live action remakes. So it's certainly possible. Let's just say I would be really shocked and surprised if it happened in the next 10 years. Possible. I'm just saying I'll be surprised. That's all. But hey, who isn't surprised now and again? Okay. Paul Andrew writes, hey John, big fan. Thank you so much, Paul. First time question. Who was more screwed? Them killing Alita's dog or John Wick's dog? P.S. Ketchup on eggs for life. Ugh, God, ketchup on eggs. Ugh, my gag reflex triggers just when I even think about that. Yeah, neither was good. I'm going to go John Wick because with John Wick, it wasn't just, there wasn't just one guy who did it. I mean, there was one guy who did it, but there wasn't one guy who did it to raise John. When John Wick's dog got killed, it put a lot of people in his line of fire. It meant a lot of people were going to have to die. And sure enough, a lot of people had to die. So as great as the scene is and how they utilize that in Alita, I'm going to give the nod on that one, Paul, to John Wick. Because, yeah, and I've never seen an audience as unified in a singular bloodlust like I saw in the movie theater when they killed John Wick's puppy. Like I said, there were nuns and sweet people all around who, when they killed John Wick's puppy with one unified energy in the room, you could tell everybody in that room is, those motherfuckers gotta die. Everybody was unified in that bloodlust. So I'm going to give the edge on that one to John Wick, Paul. Thanks for the question, man. Richard follows up with, I work as a lifeguard and our boss, I closing the pool. Do you mean the boss and I? Anyway, our boss and I closing the pool for the day next weekend because we are having a staff day out to see Captain Marvel in the IMAX. That's a good day. I remember, I worked in a visual effects company, and I remember we used to do that all the time. We called it lunch meetings. And when we in the visual effects company would have lunch meetings, what that really was us saying, hey, we're going to go see a matinee of The Phantom Menace again. Because despite the fact that every time we saw The Phantom Menace, we hated it more and more, the fact of the matter is, at the time, it was the most unbelievable visual effects we'd ever seen. And we worked in visual effects. So we went to go see it. Oh, God. We had at least 16 lunch meetings going to go watch that. So that's always good. I love it when work people, Anne has work outings as well. They go see a lot of the movies. I think that's really, really cool when any kind of business you work for will want to close down and say, hey, let's all go watch this movie together. It's good team building. It's a good shared experience stuff. It's good for morale. I think it's a great thing to do. I think your boss is onto something there, Richard. All right. Hopefully the movie doesn't suck. Aaron H. writes, who's the better color commentator, Joe Rogan or Tony Romo? That's a good question. I was never a big Tony Romo fan as a football player. I really like his color commentary in football because not only, first of all, he was an elite class quarterback in the NFL. He knows the game. But he brings a fan's enthusiasm and energy to his color commentary that I got to tell you, I have really enjoyed watching football games where Tony Romo is a color commentator. Joe Rogan, though, he's great. He knows mixed martial arts inside out and backwards. He's a practitioner himself. And he's a comedian. And he's a broadcast professional. And he's great to listen to. And every once in a while, he calls it like a pro. And then every once in a while, he'll throw in the most ridiculous, funny line. Oh my God, that's a really good... I'm going to give right now the edge to Joe Rogan. But he's been doing it a lot longer than Tony Romo. Tony Romo could end up taking the lead on him on that, but I enjoy both those guys. I enjoy both those guys in their respective sports very, very much. Let's see. Where are we at? Richard Karate writes, with Disney now making a lot of their classic movies now live action, do you think we will get a live action Pocahontas movie? It's my girlfriend's favorite. Oh, I don't have any doubt. Or at least I have very, very little doubt. Pocahontas is completely in their wheelhouse. By the way, Pocahontas had a nice little appearance in Wreck-It Ralph 2. All the princesses had a great appearance in Wreck-It Ralph 2. But Pocahontas is one I could totally see them doing. Look, they're doing Mulan right now, and I'm sure Pocahontas will come along very shortly. And I have very little doubt. Now, I have no insider information on that. I'm not saying that's factually true, but as a fan, it seems to me to make a lot of sense that they would definitely do that. I would be surprised if they didn't. The only thing that I could see them maybe hindering it is if Mulan comes out and is a total flop for them. If Mulan comes out and is a complete flop for them, maybe that will give them pause on a Pocahontas one, but I got to assume it's in their long-range planning. I got to assume it's in their long-range planning already because it just seems to make sense. Let's see. Thoughts on the movie Killing Them Softly. I don't even know for sure which one that is. Hold on a second. I think I know which one it is. But I might be mistaken. Oh, it's not the movie I was thinking about. This is the Brad Pitt movie. The one with Scoot McNairy in it. You know what? I'm not positive that I saw it. The movie came out in 2012. And this is one of those things. I mean, I see a lot of movies every year, and if I did see it, I don't remember seeing it. So I cannot remember. Maybe if I watched the trailer, maybe it would spark my memory again, but I'm not 100% sure that I saw it, so I can't give you my thoughts on the film clearly. Okay. Ryan Lohner writes, I'm the unicorn who doesn't care about Lion King. I haven't liked a single LA remake so far, and after I don't know what BAPT is, so I can't answer. Sorry, Ryan. Guys, I ask you all the time, please don't put in acronyms, because if I don't know what you're talking about, then I can't give any sort of commentary. Orange Hand writes, a show based on a book series set up a subplot from the books. Okay. A show based on a book series set up a subplot from the books, but didn't include the payoff. Would you consider this to be lazy storytelling? No, not at all. Again, at least not in any one blanket statement. It depends on the show, or it depends on the movie. And did the way they used it best work for that show or movie or not? There's no one basic way to answer that question, Orange Hand. There's just no one basic way. There's no one size fits all answer here. And I think people throw around the term lazy way too easily. But no, look, if you set up something that you don't believe the payoff is necessary for the live action version that you're doing, then you don't do it. I don't think that necessarily means it's good or bad or lazy or whatever. It just is what it is. Maybe there are circumstances where it is bad and lazy, but again, there's no one just blanket answer to that at all. It might be that doing it that way was the best thing for your show or movie. It might be that it was the worst thing for your show or movie, but there's no one-size-fits-all answer to that, unfortunately. Rufino Salazar Jr. writes, you think we'll see Skrulls in Endgame pretending to be dusted heroes? No, here's the thing, Rufino. I don't know this. I'm going to find out Monday. Tomorrow. I'm going to go see Captain Marvel tomorrow. And I will get a good sense about whether I am right or whether I'm wrong. But I've been saying this for a long time. I don't think Skrulls have anything to do with the MCU outside of Captain Marvel. I think there is going to be a Skrull problem in Captain Marvel, and I think Captain Marvel solves the Skrull problem in Captain Marvel, and it's no longer an issue moving forward. And I remember for a long time, everybody started jumping up and down with these theories about, oh my gosh, I mean, so now when we come back to Endgame or whatever, Cap is going to have been a Skrull, and so is a Skrull the whole time, and this is a Skrull, and Skrulls are here, and Skrulls are there, and Skrulls are everywhere. And it's like, I just don't see it that way, and I could be wrong. I'm going to find out tomorrow if I'm wrong. My guess is, and it's just a guess, my guess is there is no Skrulls in the MCU current day. I believe we're going to be introduced to Skrulls being a main component of the Captain Marvel movie. And I believe Captain Marvel is going to deal with that problem, and the problem will then be done. I don't think they're going to pull a Hydra with the Skrulls. You know, the Hydra, situation, they dealt with Hydra, they defeated Hydra, but they just keep bringing them back and reintroducing them. I don't think they're going to do that with the Skrulls. I think the Skrulls are a plot device in the upcoming movie, and I think it's done. So, to be honest with you, when I'm looking at, moving into Endgame, I don't think Skrulls are going to have anything to do with Endgame. Now, I might come out of Captain Marvel tomorrow singing a completely different tune. depending on how that movie plays out. But yeah, right now, I don't think there's any Skrulls in the world at this point. So we'll find out. All right, Corey Timmons writes, Crawley in Doom Patrol Episode 4. Are you talking about the actor who plays Crowley? Hold on a second. Let me look him up. Supernatural. Let me just see. I always forget the name of the actor because he was also in Battlestar Galactica. And he was in Episode 1 of Firefly, as a matter of fact. Let's see if I can find him here. I will tell you if it's the same guy or if we're talking about somebody completely different. Let's see. Mark Shepard is the actor's name. I love this guy. I can watch this guy act all day. I loved him in Battlestar Galactica. I loved him as Crowley in Supernatural. So, okay, that's probably not what you're talking about because I don't see him listed at all. He was also in the TV series Leverage, which I never watched. He was in White Collar, which I never watched. He was in Warehouse 13, which I only saw like 1 or 2 episodes. Where I really watched him was in Supernatural. So he's not listed there. So you must be talking about another guy or another actor that I don't know. Okay. Anyway. Jacob Jansen writes, Hey, John, I'm just wondering, and I am not excusing his behavior, but do you think it's even possible for Kevin Spacey to come back to acting and have a successful career? I don't. No. The only way I think it could happen is if, like, and this isn't going to happen, but if 1 or 2 of his accusers just came out and or something came out in a trial where a massive conspiracy to destroy Kevin Spacey was unearthed and revealed in a court of law, and Kevin became totally exonerated and blah, 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 blah. Some real courtroom movie crap, right? If that were to happen, then, oh my God, there's nothing Hollywood loves more than a comeback story. So if that were to happen, sure, but I don't think anything less than that will have that happen. I don't see anybody hiring Kevin Spacey to do anything. Like, forget for a second about whether how the audience would respond to Kevin Spacey being in something. I don't see any studio even giving that a chance. I don't see any studio giving that a chance, barring some miraculous revelation that comes straight out of a movie script that completely exonerates him. Anything short of that, and I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not giving any personal opinion on that whatsoever. You're simply asking me, do I think X could happen? I think X could happen if Y is a contributing factor, and other than that, I do not think X can happen. The morality, the right and wrong of that, I'm leaving that up to everybody else to make up their own minds. I'm simply saying I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. So there's my thoughts on that. All right. Damian Davies writes, my brother thinks Denis Villeneuve, on the basis of his 4 most recent movies, is a better director than Spielberg. Nearly spat out my coffee. Well, look, I mean, it's like sports. You can have a favorite basketball player who is not Michael Jordan or LeBron James. That's fine. You're not going to find any player on the planet today who's anywhere near as good as them. But, hey, it doesn't have to be your favorite. But art is so subjective. Like, hey, look, the problem here is this. Denis Villeneuve has not made a movie yet, a single movie, that is as good as any of the top 5 Steven Spielberg films. But even me saying that is a subjective statement, right? I can say Denis Villeneuve, as great as he is, and as much as I like him, and I do, I think he's fabulous, he's incredible, I cannot wait to see what he does with Dune. But I can sit here and say, you know, Denis Villeneuve, with the movies he's made, right? Whether it's Prisoners or Arrival or Blade Runner 2049 or whatever, that he's made some great movies, but he hasn't made anything that's come close to being as good as Amistad. He hasn't made anything as iconic or as that will have the legs and long life that Close Encounters of the Third Kind had. He's never made anything that will have the legacy and enduring reputation and place in pop culture as Jaws had. He's never made anything that will be passed down from generation to generation of film fans as E.T. He has never made anything that, I can lay all that out, but at the end of the day, that's still just me making a bunch of subjective statements. And if your brother thinks Denis is a better filmmaker than Spielberg, okay, that's his opinion. He's allowed to have it. I also would spit out my coffee. I would say to him, come back and talk to me in 20 years. Talk to me in 20 years. Once Denis made a lot more films, and has he come anywhere close to Spielberg? But even then, it's just a subjective statement. If that's the way it is, that's the way it is. I remember there were people telling me, when Lord of the Rings was the big hot thing, I had so many people tell me, Peter Jackson's a better director than Steven Spielberg. Yeah, okay, sure, just keep saying that. But it's true. Whoever is the hot name of the month, everybody's like, they're one of the greatest directors of all time. Like Christopher Nolan. I remember when the Batman films came out, Christopher Nolan's as good as Spielberg. Just let's give it a little more time. And what's happened with Christopher Nolan? More time has passed. And he continues to crap out excellence, right? He squats down and craps out excellence. Give Nolan another 6, 7, 8 years. Nolan's name is going to be in the conversation for the Mount Rushmore of directors if he keeps up this pace. But Denis Villeneuve, he needs a lot more films and a lot more time, and he needs something that can be at least considered as good as any of Spielberg's top 5. Right? I think before you get into that. But again, that's just all subjective statements. So he's entitled to have that thing, man. And more power to him. If that's his opinion and that's how he feels, more power to him. I'm not going to poo-poo on him for that. All right. Phoenix DTS writes, is How to Train Your Dragon 3 the new standard for 3D animation? Oh, I don't think so. I think it was great. I don't even think it was as good as part 1 or part 2, but I thought it was great and I enjoyed it immensely. And the last 15 minutes of that film just are like, all the heartstrings. All the heartstrings for the last 15 minutes of that movie. Do I believe it's the new standard for 3D animation? I don't think so, personally. Murray Reich writes, Vader, come join me and we will rule the galaxy. Hellboy. I don't think it's going to work because I'm a Capricorn and you're fucking nuts. I'm telling you what. Here's the thing I brought up about the Hellboy thing. The shame about the Hellboy thing is that I believe this new Hellboy trailer is really quite good. I enjoyed it immensely. And that last line, join me as be my king and join me. I don't think it would work. I mean, I'm a Capricorn and you're fucking nuts. I mean, it's so well timed out. The line was delivered so great by David Harbour. It's so really good. But here's the problem, though. You know the old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. The first trailer for Hellboy came out, and it did not impress a lot of people. A lot of people were not happy with the first trailer for Hellboy. And look at what happened with Alita Battle Angel. The first trailer for Alita Battle Angel came out, and a lot of people didn't like it. Including me. I didn't like the first trailer. A lot of people didn't like the first trailer. Now, they put out other trailers later that were much better, and I started getting excited for Alita, but they never got over the fact that their first impression with a lot of people wasn't a good one. And what's the result been? Right now, Alita Battle Angel, let me just pull it up here. So Alita Battle Angel has only made $72 million domestically. Now that's good for a lot of films. That's good for a lot of films. But when your movie costs $170 million to make, it's not great. It's not great. It's now after its third weekend already and has already opened in all the major markets. It's made $350 million worldwide. That's still like $100+ million short of even breaking even. And I think if the first Alita Battle Angel trailer had been trailer 2 or trailer 3, I think we're talking about a movie that's already broken $450 million, maybe already broken $500 million. But they came out with a trailer, with their first trailer, and people didn't even like it. I fear that Hellboy may face the same thing. That, okay, they just put out a great trailer now, but a lot of people didn't like that first trailer, and you may have, poof, lost them already. And the reality is, although it's not fair, once you lose an audience member, it's tough to get them back. And I think there's a lot of film fans that saw that first Hellboy trailer, wasn't what they were expecting, wasn't what they wanted, for whatever reason didn't work for them, and I think you lost them. And even though this new trailer is really damn good, and I'm looking forward to this movie, I'm a little nervous for it. I'm a little nervous for it, to be honest with you. So let's see how this turns out. All right, Denmar95 writes, why do we have to wait till 2022 for Aquaman? It takes a long time to make a movie. It takes a long time. I mean, just the planning stages, writing the script, then you have to get, first of all, you got to get the director's schedule lined up. You have to get your star's schedule lined up. I mean, you got a guy like Jason Momoa, he's got other things he's doing too. You have other, like, a movie takes thousands of people. You got to get schedules lined up. You got to get to the point where you're ready to shoot. Then you got to actually shoot the damn thing, have the time to do the post-production. Takes a while. So, yeah, I mean, look, if I look up Jason Momoa right now, let me just pull this up here. Jason Momoa. Right now, he's got a television series called C that he's filming. Then he's got to do Dune. Then he's apparently going to be in Just Cause. And he's got to do all these things before he ever gets around to doing Aquaman. He's already got commitments. So you got to write the thing, get the script right. You got to do all your pre-production. Then you're ready to start shooting the movie. You got to plan for your 4 months of shooting. Then you got to do all your post-production. And you got to fit it all around your people's schedules. Your producers, your directors, your cinematographers, your stars. You got to work it around their schedule. 2022. Not so bad. It's 3 years away. It's not horrible. It feels like a long wait, but yeah, there you go. All right. Samuel Phillip writes, 32 days until Shazam. So pumped. It's insane. I cannot wait for Shazam. I cannot wait for Shazam. I haven't been this excited for a DC movie probably since Batman vs. Superman. I haven't been this excited for a DC movie since Batman vs. Superman. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was excited for Aquaman. And I was excited for Justice League. But I am so stoked for Shazam. I cannot even contain it. I hope to God it's not bad, but I think it's going to be a really fun ride. I think it's going to be a really entertaining, fun movie. And I hope they crush it. And I think they might. I'm so stoked for this movie. It's crazy. Okay. Let's see here. Roman Bryant writes, if I had a genie, my wish would be to see Tom Holland versus Vincent D'Onofrio. It'll never happen, but a boy can dream. If you're talking about Spider-Man versus D'Onofrio's Kingpin, that would be fun. Although, I don't think it would be as good as you think it might be. Because D'Onofrio's Kingpin, while they make him at the human limits of toughness and strength and all that kind of stuff, they do pretty much portray him as human. You know, when I'm playing Spider-Man on the PS4, there's nothing really human about Kingpin's stats. I mean, Kingpin can do things a human being cannot do. And Holland's Spider-Man has the power of the gods. I mean, Spider-Man can, lift cars over his head and, has the super speed and reflexes and the magical spider sense and all that kind of stuff. And D'Onofrio's incarnation of Kingpin, I don't believe can stand for 30 seconds with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. The Kingpin in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse could probably go toe-to-toe with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. But D'Onofrio's Kingpin, I'm going to guess couldn't. But it would be fun to see those guys on screen together. Ryan Lohner writes, congrats, Umbrella Academy. You have me completely rooting for the bad guys. I haven't felt this way so much since the Grinch movie. I don't know exactly. Do you mean here's the problem, Ryan. I can't even address that because any way I would address it would get into spoiler territory. And I don't want to spoil anything about the Umbrella Academy for somebody who hasn't watched it. So I can't address that question, but I think it's an interesting comment that you've made. I think it's an interesting comment. I just can't address it right now without getting into spoiler territory. All right. Dan Ketchum writes, Marvel could say Inhumans plus mutants are the same thing. They could, but they wouldn't. They've already done too much. Like, look, mutation and the entire history of X-Men, the whole mythology of X-Men is rooted and based on the notion of it's a part of human evolution, the natural part of human evolution. You know, Homo sapien to Homo superior. They've already established in the MCU the alien Terrigen Mist and the alien, and that has nothing to do with the X-Men. Now, that doesn't mean they can't change it, but it's such a core, fundamental part of what the whole mythos of the X-Men and mutants are. It's completely different from Inhumans. Completely different. You know, we brought up a little bit earlier the idea of lazy writing, and I've said we throw around the term lazy writing too easily, so I'm going to take a risk here and employ it right now anyway. To me, that would be very lazy. That would be very, very lazy of them to do. And who knows, maybe they will. But again, it's so divergent from what what mutation is. It's the complete antithesis. The whole notion of mutation, and it's just, we are just the human race that is evolving. And the Inhuman thing is a completely different thing. So I would be, let's put it this way, I would be disappointed in Marvel if they took that route. I would be disappointed in them. Now, that doesn't mean they couldn't do it and do it in a really great way that still ends up being great and entertaining, but I would be disappointed in them if that's the route they take. So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Lone Wolf X6 writes, Hey, John, I hope you're having a good day. I'm having a great day so far, Lone Wolf. Thank you for asking. So I was wondering if we saw Kilgrave and Kingpin team up, how do you think their relationship would have worked? Plus Vincent D'Onofrio and David Tennant for the win. Oh, I don't know, man. That's a wild fan fiction speculation kind of question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the reality is, there wouldn't be a team up. Kilgrave would just, I mean, let me just make sure I'm thinking of the right guy here, just to make sure before I go off on anything horrible here. Because I'm thinking that's the villain from Jessica Jones, right? Yes, it is. Okay. The thing with Kilgrave does not work with others, and he does not team up with others. He would simply mind control Kingpin and make it, unless for some reason you said Kingpin had some kind of supernatural birth defect that made him immune to Kilgrave's power. Otherwise, what you'd be looking at is a show where they're not working together. Kilgrave would own Kingpin. Kingpin would be a slave to Kilgrave. I mean, if you just want to follow the natural progression of how the characters work in those shows, he would become a slave to Kilgrave. Unless, of course, like I said, you came up with some wild theory that Kingpin is himself in the television, something they never suggested, but that Kingpin himself in the television series is some kind of mutant who has some kind of difference in his genetic makeup that makes him impervious to Kilgrave's power. I guess. Then you could have a show like that. Anything short of that, though, you just don't have the things you require to make some kind of scenario like that happen and be effective, right? So I don't know, it'd be interesting. But again, seeing Vincent D'Onofrio and David Tennant on screen together would be very cool. But again, like, it's one of the things I always talk about, Lone Wolf, like, fans, including me, we come up with these, I want to see D'Onofrio and Tennant together, yeah! But that's putting the actors before the characters and putting the characters before the story. Story comes first. Start with the story, then figure what would be the good characters to have in that story, then figure who would be the good actors to portray those characters. We as fans, what we often do, I'm susceptible to this, you're susceptible to this, we all do this. What we as fans do is we look at things ass backwards. We think about the actors we want and the characters what we want them doing, and then we think story. When really, to be effective, you got to go completely the opposite of that. You start with story. then what characters will make this story hum, then what actors will make those characters hum, and you go that way. And we, as fans, we think completely ass backwards. I do it. I mean, I think we all do it, right? So when we look at it from a story point, I just don't know how that works. But hey, would it be cool to see Tenet and D'Onofrio working together? Absolutely. Absolutely it would be. All right. Let's move on here. Jared McBride writes, "Hello, John. Who do you have winning the national championship game this year in March Madness? I hope it's my North Carolina Tar Heels." I don't know. I haven't been following it very close. I'm going to guess it's going to be Duke because they've got Ezekiel. So I'm guessing it's going to be Duke, but I think there's probably an argument to be made for Gonzaga. I just watched North Carolina play a very, very tough game against Clemson, and they nearly lost to Clemson, who is struggling this year. So I don't know that NC is destined to win it all, but my guess right now is Duke, but I'm not the best guy to ask. All right, let's see here. Carl Adams writes, what are the chances we will see Dr. Doom invade Wakanda for Black Panther 3? I would love to see Doom War on the big screen. I don't know. I mean, it's the same as any kind of fan fiction question. You know, I mean, we could say, what are the chances that, Nova comes and starts working with Black Widow? Oh, I don't know. I mean, pick any MCU's character's name, insert into any MCU thing. I don't know. It's possible. I doubt it. I remember for a while though, the show, I believe it was the showrunner for Legion. They announced at Comic-Con that he was working on a Doctor Doom movie. That has clearly been scrapped. So that's gone. Does Disney then want to try to pick up on that later? Maybe, maybe not. Doctor Doom's a really, really good villain, though. I mean, you could use him in a lot of different ways. The possibility that he could pop up in Black Panther 3 is the exact same possibility that Adam Warlock pops up in Black Panther 3, or the exact same possibility that Kang pops up in Black Panther 3, or the exact same possibility that Galactus pops up in... it's the exact same possibility. He's a character who's becoming available to Marvel. What are the chances they use him? As good as anybody else's. But I don't think... Look, Kevin Feige, while he takes a lot of liberties with his material, he is very much a Fantastic Four fan. And Doctor Doom is very much connected to the Fantastic Four. And I have a feeling, and again, this is just me speculating, but my belief is once they do bring in Fantastic Four, whenever that'll happen, and I don't even know if that'll happen before a Black Panther 3, he's going to bring in Doctor Doom with Fantastic Four. He's going to want to do Doctor Doom with Fantastic Four. Maybe not in the first Fantastic Four movie, but I don't believe we're going to see Doctor Doom until it's in relation to Fantastic Four. So on that level, I'll say it's a little unlikely that we'll see him pop up in Black Panther 3. I think it's most likely we'll see Kevin Feige want to use him with Fantastic Four. Again, I don't have any insider information on that. That's just me kind of speculating and guessing as any other fan. All right. Lone Wolf X6 writes, I wish Kilgrave didn't die. Would love to see him. I don't know. There's nothing else you could do with that character other than have him die. I mean, really, there was really not much else you could do with that character other than have him die. Because the character's power is basically, once he's out and loose, there's only so much you could do, I think, in a live action series with a character that has that kind of power without just repeating the same thing over and over again. I didn't like Jessica Jones season 1, but I certainly thought he was a compelling villain. And I thought they played that story out, and then they did the natural conclusion of that story. He had to die. Because what are you left with if he comes back again? It's just going to be a repetition of the same thing. He's basically unstoppable. He controls people's minds, blah, 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 and we'll just see that repeat and repeat and repeat. And I think when you bring in a character like that, the only natural conclusion for that is that he dies. So I don't know if that would make much sense to bring him back, to be honest with you. I'm not really sure. Anyway, but I'm sure there are a lot of people Lone Wolf, that would love to see him back. I'm sure you're not alone. I'm sure there are a ton of people who love to see him back. Just for me, though, from a narrative point of view, I don't see the narrative function in bringing him back and how that can create any kind of an interesting story that we haven't already done. But hey, that's just my thought. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do it and I think it's the greatest thing ever. The Kosan writes, have you been following the NHL this season and the Leafs? Also, over under 10% Leafs win the Stanley Cup this year. 10%? Yes, I have been following it. I don't talk a lot about hockey because I know a lot of you guys don't watch hockey. Look, I think this is a great year for the Leafs, but I've been saying all year, this is a building stage for the Leafs, despite the fact that they're doing so well. 10% is a low number, though. I would look, if you were to ask me, are the Leafs going to win the Stanley Cup this year? No. Would I give them more than a 10% chance? Yeah. I'll give them more than a 10% chance. But I don't, but it's still very unlikely. It's still very, very unlikely. But I think next year, they're going to be more gelled. They're going to be more experienced. They're going to make a few adjustments in the offseason. I've been saying this all year. I believe next year is the year that you have to consider them a major threat. I don't yet this year, but I think next year. All right. Lone Wolf writes, dude, you're embarrassing me in front of the Wizards. I love that line. I love that you're embarrassing me in front of the Wizards. I love that line in Infinity War. It's great. There's so much, actually, in that whole sequence in the streets of New York as Strange, Wong, Iron Man, Bruce, Spider-Man are engaging with, Maw and the other dude. There's so much really good quips and one-liners from a lot of the characters, including, Wong and Strange, obviously Tony, Peter, Bruce. There's a lot of rich stuff in that. You could just sit down and rewatch that fight scene over and over and over again and still enjoy it 50 times through. There's a lot of really great moments, and that is definitely one of them. I love that moment, Lone Wolf. All right. Mason Kackman writes, so, Michael Bay produced a Friday the 13th and a Nightmare on Elm Street. Was he planning on making another Freddy versus Jason? I don't know. Look, the thing is, they tried making a Freddy versus Jason, right? Let me just bring this up here. Because I remember... hold on a second. Give me a second. Oh, that's why. Okay. Freddy. I'm just trying to pull up the numbers on this. Okay. Freddy versus Jason, A New Nightmare. I believe it was called. Or Freddy versus Jason. They tried it worldwide. Worldwide. Made $114 million. Now, I remember when that movie was coming out, there were people talking like, this movie is going to be one of the biggest movies of all time. It's Freddy and Jason together on the big screen. Everybody's going to go see it. This movie's going to make $400 million. This movie's going to make $500 million, blah, 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 right? Made $114 million. Made under $115 million. So my guess is, and it's just a guess, my guess is he wasn't thinking Freddy versus Jason again. Then again, the whole rage these days is shared cinematic. Everything's got to be in a shared cinematic universe. So I'm going to guess he wasn't thinking Freddy versus Jason again. But there probably was a decent chance that maybe he was. Because like I said, everything's about shared cinematic universes again. And it may very well be that he was kind of maybe thinking and angling things that way. It's possible. It's certainly possible. All right. Joseph Klepper writes, Hello, did you think of the film Widows? What did I think of Widows? Oh, I liked it quite a bit. It wasn't, if you remember, I was insanely excited about Widows. And I thought it was very good. It wasn't quite as good as I was hoping. But I mean, look, when you go up and down, the performances, all the actresses were incredible. All the actors who were kind of secondary characters, but they were all great as well. The story was great. It was exciting when it needed to be exciting. It was good. It was real good. I liked it. It wasn't as good as I was hoping, but I actually quite enjoyed it a lot. Ryan Lohner writes, was Miles getting a hairy palm from Gwen a deliberate joke? You know, Lord and Miller would do it. I think it was. I think it was. I think they didn't linger on it, which was the right move. They did it quick. They did it a little bit subtle, but I think the obvious joke was there. Ryan. So I would say yes. I would be with you on the yes on that. I think that was clearly the joke, but they didn't. You know, a lot of other filmmakers, and by the way, don't forget, Lord and Miller did not direct that film. A lot of people keep thinking Lord and Miller made that movie. They didn't. They produced it, but they didn't direct the film. But at any rate, I think a lot of other filmmakers maybe would have lingered on the joke and really put it in your face a little bit more, but they kept it quick and they kept it subtle, and I think that was part of the effectiveness of it. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. Zach Carper writes, John, you were able to watch UFC 235. If so, what were your thoughts? Usman shocked me. Usman shocked me too, especially 1 week before the fight, he was in a walking boot after he had a fracture in his left foot. Actually, I think it might have been just like 3 or 4 days before the fight, he was still in a walking boot because of a fracture in his foot. And he got in the ring against Tyron Woodley and destroyed him. Look, overall, I thought the card was great. I watched all the prelims. I thought the prelims were exciting. That Johnny Walker thing was hilarious. I thought the prelims were great, but the main event was exactly what I said. I've been saying ever since they made this fight with Anthony between John Jones and Anthony Smith. Smith did not deserve a title shot. He had no business being in a title shot. He's just not that good yet. He's not. This is a dude with 13 losses on his record. 13 losses. And 2 of his last 3 wins have been over big names, but they're big names who are way past their prime. When's the last time Rashad Evans won a fight? So yeah, he beat Rashad Evans. Everybody beats Rashad Evans right now. He beat Shogun Rua. Yeah, but Shogun was way past his prime. It's not like Anthony Smith beat Shogun Rua in his prime or Rashad in his prime or anything like that. And his last win, he almost lost that fight before he came back. I said from the day they made that match, this was a softball being tossed to John Jones just to make John Jones look good. I'll tell you what, though. I want to see John Jones fight this Johnny Walker kid. I want to see John Jones fight this Johnny Walker kid. This Johnny Walker kid is scary. You know, 3 devastating first-round knockouts in a row against legit competition. This Walker kid, I think, could pose a lot of problems to John Bones Jones. But yeah, Usman shocked me. I mean, that the pure dominance is what shocked me. I wouldn't have been shocked if you told me Usman will win this fight, because he's really good. But I was so stunned by how Tyron Woodley wasn't able to do anything against him. Like, not a thing. He was just owned in every aspect of the fight, and that part kind of surprised me. So anyway, Jacob Ibarra writes, if there isn't a Rocket and Goose team-up fight scene in Endgame, I'm going to be pissed. Well, I mean, it's what I always say, Jacob. Don't go into a movie with a checkbox list of things that say they have to do this in the movie and they have to do this. I know it's our tendency as film fans to do that, but we really need to try to resist that urge to make up all these check boxes that the movie has to do this, this, and this, or else I'm not going to be happy. Don't do that. You're just setting yourself up for disappointment. Let's just let the filmmakers make their film, and let's just appreciate for what they give us, and let's not start making up scenarios that they have to put in their movies in order to make us happy, because we just set ourselves up for disappointment when we do. So let's wait and see. Now, I understand the comic connections to all that, but this isn't the comics. Let's just see what happens. Let's just hope the movie's good. Michael LaGrange writes, greetings from Iowa. Well, greetings, Michael. I just wanted to say let me try this again. I just wanted to say I get super anxious when you almost say something you know that we don't. Example, yesterday's open mic with there being another Endgame trailer. Look, again, I cannot comment to that. All I'm going to say is, come on, is there anybody on the planet that does not expect another Endgame trailer? It's not like I was dropping some big insider information. Everybody knows there's another trailer coming. We all know it, right? But I will admit, Michael, sometimes this is the problem of doing shows live. The problem of doing shows live is you're just talking, communicating, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes you maybe start to say something you shouldn't say, and you got to catch yourself. And I haven't always caught myself. Sometimes I say things I shouldn't say. But that's the risk. I mean, I'm doing a show live. We've already been going over an hour and a half now. We're at an hour and a half mark now. And yeah, you can catch yourself in saying something you shouldn't say. And that's part of the risk. But with people who pre-record their videos, super easy. If you can just say whatever. If you say something you didn't like, you just edit it out. No big deal. Super simple. But yeah, sometimes that happens. But again, Michael, though, let's not pretend that not everybody on the planet didn't already know there's a new trailer coming. We all know it. Everybody knows it, right? Nobody really thought there wasn't going to be another trailer. So anyway, there's that. But thank you for that. I get a little bit nervous too. I get anxious when I realize, oh crap, I started to say something I'm not allowed to say yet. And I get really anxious about it too. All right. Timothy Plot writes, Alita is currently around 350 million, over under 50% there's a sequel. It's a good, we talked about that on the show the other day, Timothy, because look, there's a very good chance Alita loses money. There's a good chance Alita loses money. Normally, that shuts the door on a sequel. But what I said on the show the other day was, even if Alita loses money, I believe there are still a couple of roadways to a sequel happening. Number one, the studios all trust James Cameron. So if James Cameron were to go to the studio and say, look, I'll be more personally involved in the next one, that could win them. Although I don't know how he could say that because he's making 18 Avatar sequels. So I don't know how he's going to say that. But that is an avenue to them still making one anyway. There's also the possibility, because if you can convince a studio head that, look, this one didn't do so well, but we believe we've identified why it didn't do so well. Like, for instance, maybe the whole thing about the first trailer not being very good. But a lot of the audience who watched our movie liked it. Even the critics, I believe. I believe the majority of the critics liked it. Hold on a second. Alita, Battle, Angel, Rotten Tomatoes. A bunch of people saying, oh, the critics didn't like it. Well, I think the majority of the critics did. Let me just double check. Alita, Battle, Angel, it's got a 60%. Now, is that a super high number? No, but it means the majority of the audience or the majority of critics like this movie. That means if you had 10 film critics there, only 4 of them didn't like it, 6 of them did. So the majority of the critics like it. A lot of the audiences really liked it. I didn't think the movie was great, but I thought it was quite good. I enjoyed it. I want to see another one. So if you can make an argument to a studio head, look, yeah, we lost money here, but we believe we can make an argument that if we did it again, we will make money on another one. And James Cameron's on board, and we believe we've put together a report, maybe this 10-page report about, or a 100-page report, laying out our argument that we believe if you let us make another one, we believe this one will make money. Guaranteed? No, but I still believe there is a path there for it to happen. So you know what? I'm going to take over 50%. I'm not going to say 60. I'm not going to say 70% chance, but I'll take over on 50%. Maybe I'll go like 51% chance that a sequel gets made. I still believe there is the possibility for it, and so much so that I'll even take the over on 50%. Certainly not a guarantee. There's certainly a good chance it doesn't get a sequel, but I think there are doors there to open that can lead to a sequel. So let's see what happens. All right, let's continue on here. Roy L. writes, I live in Oklahoma, and the closest con for me to go to is the Fan Expo Dallas. How can I get them to invite you to be a guest, or what's the process? I mean, the only thing I have to do is all I have to do is I just need to contact that convention and say, here's who I am, I'd like to come. And that's generally how it happens. I usually, if there's a con or a festival I want to go to, I usually just reach out to them, say, I'd like to come to this, do a panel, do whatever, and they'll set it up. It's not that difficult. But then you're talking about me flying all the way down to Dallas, being away from home for a couple of days. And when I'm not home, I can't do the John Campea show. And when I can't do the John Campea show, I lose money. And that makes it expensive. It's expensive for me to go away for a few days. Why do you think I don't go on holiday more often? I mean, I go on vacation very, very rarely. It's tough for me even to get away very long over Christmas to go home. I mean, I don't take a lot of vacation time. And it's tough because you got to fly somewhere. You got to get hotels. You got to eat while you're gone. All this kind of stuff. It's pretty tricky. It's pretty tricky. So now sometimes these conventions, they will pay for people to go. It's rare, but sometimes they do. And I don't know. I mean, find out. I mean, just reach out to the Fan Expo Dallas, ask them, and I don't know if they're willing to pay to fly me down, which I don't see why they would be. But if they were willing to do it, I would consider it. But that's the big thing. It's just expensive to go to these things. And that's why, because I get a lot of people write me, like even from the UK and everything, right? John, why don't you come to this event in the UK, right? And like, I'd love to go, but I can't afford that. I can't afford to just like pay a couple $1,000 to fly over there, put up hotels for me and whoever I have to bring with me and blah, blah, blah. And not to mention while I'm there, I can't be doing my show. And it's tough, right? So, but I would love to, if there was some way for me to do it, I would. Dimsum05 writes, note how similar Jamie Presley and Margot Robbie look. I don't know. Are they? Hold a second. Jamie Presley. Okay, let's see here. I haven't looked at Jamie Presley in a while. Wow. You know what? Yeah. If you were to play a movie with Jamie Presley as like Margot Robbie's older sister, yeah. That's actually not bad. Actually, somebody actually put this graphic together. Take a look at this. One side is Margot Robbie, one side is Jamie Presley. Yeah, you could totally sell me. I mean, I don't think they could play mother-daughter, but if you were to say one was like the older sister to the other in a movie, oh yeah, I'd totally buy that. Or if you had a movie where like it's Margot Robbie and half the movie or 3/4 of the movie is now, and then the last movie is 15 years later, and it's Jamie Presley playing Margot Robbie. Yeah, you would get me on that. You would totally get me on that. Actually, I've never even heard of that comparison before, but there you go. Nice one, Dim Sum. Okay. Timothy Platt writes, please talk about why hockey is so great, especially to the unwashed masses here in America who don't appreciate it. Hockey is life. Well, I can't, in Timothy, in 1 minute, I can't express why hockey is amazing. But it is funny, whenever I go with an American friend of mine to a hockey game for the first time, they're always amazed by the speed of the game, the speed, the physicality. Look, it's got the speed. It's a faster game than basketball. It's got the physicality of football. And it's just like nonstop action, unlike baseball, where it's like, and the pitcher throws the ball, and now we wait for another 30 seconds. And now the pitcher throws the ball, and now we wait for another 30 seconds. You know, it's the nonstop physicality of football, greater speed than basketball. It's just an insane game. It's just the greatest sport in the world. Hockey is the greatest sport in the world. But it's difficult to express that to people who've grown up watching other sports, right? I mean, it's understandable. It's the one I grew up with, but it's difficult to explain that to other people. But guys, if you haven't gone to a live hockey game, go to a live hockey game, an NHL game, and you'll get hooked. You'll get hooked. All right. I'm Upset writes, over under 60%, Kyrie leaves Boston for LA. Ooh, under. I would take, if you just left your statement at over under 60% that Kyrie leaves Boston, I will take the over on that. Kyrie leaves Boston to specifically go to LA. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I will take the under 60% on that. All right. Frederick Brooks writes, hey guys, love the show. Thank you so much, Frederick. The way that The Dark Knight Rises ended, Can you see them making a Batman Beyond with Christian Bale as an older Bruce Wayne and Joseph Gordon-Levitt and as the new Batman? No, absolutely 0% on that. Number one, I don't think there's any chance of making a Batman Beyond movie. Nobody cares. And everybody gets mad at me when I say that, but it's the truth. Nobody cares. When people think Batman, Batman is Bruce Wayne. Batman is Bruce Wayne. Now, I'll tell you the one thing that has happened recently, though, that I think has increased the possibility of down the road a Batman Beyond movie. Here's what's happened recently that I think has increased the possibility that down the road we may get a Batman Beyond movie, and that is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a movie that, while it relied heavily on Peter Parker's Spider-Man, who is a major character in the film, as Peter, not an old man Peter, but like Peter Parker's Spider-Man, was able to introduce audiences to a different incarnation of Spider-Man that they have probably never heard of before in Miles Morales, and done so with great success. That success has opened the door for there to be at least some discussions over at Warner Brothers about the possibility of a Batman Beyond animated movie. I don't know that it's going to happen, but it's at least sparked some conversations that maybe it's something they could do because of the success of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. If, and these are all a lot of ifs, but still, if they do pull the trigger and do a feature film Batman Beyond movie, like a real movie, not some straight-to-home video crap, but a real movie. And if, now again, I warned you, there's a lot of ifs here. If they pull the trigger and make a movie like this, and if that movie can enjoy the type of success that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse has, then I believe that opens the door even further to them maybe at some point wanting to pull the trigger on a Batman Beyond movie. Now, that is several stages away, and it's a lot of big ifs, I acknowledge. It's a lot of ifs in a row that has to happen. A lot of dominoes have to fall in the right order for some scenario like this to come to pass. But I do believe that because of the success of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, it creates that path then to it happening, whereas before I didn't think the path even existed. Before Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and its success, I thought there's no way you're going to see Warner Brothers do something as dumb as do a Batman Beyond movie. However, with the success of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, it creates, granted, a lot of ifs and a lot of dominoes that have to fall, but I believe it has created a path that it could possibly happen at some point. I still don't think likely. And 100% though, it will never be Christian Bale coming back, Joseph Gordon-Levitt coming back. I 100% guarantee you that will never happen. Christian Bale has already said definitively on record, he's never doing a comic book movie again. You're not getting Christopher Nolan coming back to it, and they would never do it without Christopher Nolan's blessing. And because they still have to work with Christopher Nolan, they want to work with Christopher Nolan moving forward. If Christopher Nolan doesn't want them, that's what killed, by the way, Frank Miller's Justice League. Christopher Nolan didn't want that movie to happen. And so it died. And I believe he still carries that kind of power at the studios today. So Batman Beyond, possible. Possible. Unlikely, but possible. This particular incarnation that you're talking about with Christian Bale coming back and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, zero. Absolutely zero. No way that ever happens. Unless Christian Bale was lying and whatever. But if we're going on what he said, then it's a zero possibility. All right. I'm going to take a couple more questions here, guys. And then with your permission, I'm going to take like a 5-minute intermission while I go gargle some salt water. You're probably starting to tell my voice is starting to labor a bit. I'm going to go top up my drink and stuff like that. So we're going to take a couple more questions here, and then we're going to take a 5-minute break. Okay. Next one up here is Joshua Howard writes, over under 40%. Endgame will have the same sort of reaction / audience divide that The Last Jedi had based on Captain Marvel and how Thanos is defeated. I'm going to go under 40% on that. Look, is it possible? Yes. It's possible. But 40% seems kind of high. Look, Kevin Feige has garnered and cultivated a lot of goodwill with the audience. A lot of goodwill with the audience. And regardless, even I think to the point that even if there's people who don't like how they deal with Thanos in Endgame, or how they don't like how they resolve it, or even if Endgame's a bad movie, there is so much momentum and goodwill surrounding the MCU right now. I don't see it becoming majorly divisive. I just don't see it happening. Now, if Captain Marvel sucks, which is possible, if Captain Marvel sucks, and then all the things that everybody hated about Captain Marvel is brought into Endgame, and they suck even more in Endgame, and everything starts to suck in Endgame, it's possible. But again, right now, it's just, there's so much goodwill built up, so much positive momentum, so much positive buzz, so much positive energy around the whole thing that even if the movie's bad, I don't think you're going to get that kind of a divisive reaction. Possible, but I'll take the under 40% on that. I'll take the under 40 on that. Okay. Brandon Barrett writes, love watching Man of Steel. Don't get how people can ever say it's poorly constructed movie. Soups has a character arc, Zod amazing multi-layer, and plot is tight with little issue. Hey, the thing is, Brandon, all that is up to personal opinion. Soups has a great character arc. Well, that's an opinion that you and I share, but it's only an opinion. Zod has amazing multi-layers. I agree, but that's an opinion. Plot is tight with little issues. That's an opinion. All the things you just said are opinions. And I agree with them 100%. I am with you on that. And I just think, I just shake my head when I hear people say they don't like Man of Steel. I mean, I think Man of Steel is one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. I think it is the singular most underrated comic book movie ever made. I love this film. But no matter my conviction of that, it's still a subjective opinion, which means there are going to be other people, maybe lots of other people, who have a different opinion than I do. So I can either accept, still think people are crazy, but I can either accept that other people just have a different opinion than I do and live with that and be content that I think it's great, and I will always defend the movie and I will always say why I think it's great. Or I can get bitter and angry and pissy, like we see a lot of other people online do, that there are people out there who don't think the same way I do and get real bitter at anybody who doesn't love Man of Steel and get real mad at anybody that does. I mean, I could do that, but losers do that. And let's face it, we all have our tendencies to act like losers sometimes. Me included, you included, all of us. We all do. It's about whether or not we can catch ourselves and choose to act like a loser or not and just go, okay, hey, I'm very comfortable and proud that I love Man of Steel. And if you don't, that's cool. I might say you're nuts and I might want to debate you on it and all that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's totally cool. You love it or you hated it, cool. That's part of being a film fan. That's cool. But I love it. And I'm going to continue to say that I love it. And I'm going to, until you get sick of hearing me say that I love it. But I do. I love it. It's okay. And if you don't, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. So I agree with you, man. I just go, man, how do you not love this movie? Well, the answer to that is because all films are subjective. And not everybody's going to love what I love. And not everybody's going to hate what I hate. And that isn't the movie experience better because of that? Isn't it better that not everybody loves the same things? Isn't it better that not everybody hates the same things? Doesn't it make the movie experience better that everything's subjective and we all have different points of view and we all have different experiences with movie and you can like or love or hate or despise whatever movies and it's cool and we can all still be fellow film fans? Isn't that better than just getting angry and bitter that other people don't like something we like, or getting angry and bitter that somebody hates something that we love? Isn't it better this way? I think it is, but that's just me. Okay, anyway. Patrick Conway writes, better Magneto, Fassbender or McKellen? I have to go for fellow Irishman Fassbender just for the scene where he brutally kills Shaw, also the bar scene. I mean, those are great scenes, but I will take McKellen's Magneto. Because in Fassbender, we see the development of Magneto, right? We see the development of Magneto, the formation, if you will, of Magneto, and it's great, and I love watching him play Magneto. McKellen, though, gives us Magneto who's gone past the formation of Magneto. He's now Magneto. And has the convictions of his character. He has all of it now. And he plays it with that conviction. And for that reason, I will go with the McKellen Magneto. But take nothing away. I take absolutely nothing away from the Fassbender Magneto because I love Fassbender's Magneto. One of the things that I'm looking forward to in Dark Phoenix. All right. Eric Saul writes, in The Last Jedi, did Rose realize she could have killed Finn by literally T-boning him out of the way from making that noble sacrifice? P.S. I messaged you on Instagram the video of Joaquin's Joker laugh. Oh, I haven't seen that yet. Yes, but it's the same kind of argument that I make all the time, Eric. Like, Batman doesn't kill. Oh, yeah? Because I've got a thing where Batman punches a guy or kicks a guy in the ribs. That could have killed him. Oh, but Batman is such a master. No. Whenever you hit somebody in the head, you could kill them. We've seen Batman do savagely violent things to people. And they use a plot hole to say, oh, he just knows if he hits him a certain way. No. Whenever you deal a savage blow to somebody's head, that may kill them. That could kill them. You know, when you leverage a 260-pound man's perfectly placed kick to a guy's ribs, that could kill him. I mean, there's just every Batman comic you read, Batman does something savagely violent to somebody that very easily could have killed them. Very easily could kill them. But they just don't say that it kills them. But give me a break, right? So it's the same kind of thing that, yes, when Rose does that, that could have killed him. You're trying to stop him from killing himself by doing something that may very well kill him. It's what they call a plot device, or what some of us call plot holes, but it's called a plot device or a hook, right? And you're absolutely right, but it's the same thing they've done with Batman for years. It's the same thing they do in lots of different things where the hero does something that very easily could have killed a lot of people. Like Spider-Man doesn't kill, right? But in the opening of the Spider-Man game, which I've been playing again recently, Spider-Man he's going after Fisk Tower, right? He's going after Fisk. And Fisk has all these guys. And there's this scene in the opening of the Spider-Man game where he picks up one of the thugs, breaks through a window, and throws him about 3 stories down. But he throws him at another thug and just goes, catch. So you say, well, yeah, but Spider-Man didn't kill him. That easily could have killed a human being. You throw one human being down 3 stories onto another guy who's just another regular. That could have killed them both. Could have killed them both like that. But it's a plot device that doesn't kill them, so we can say the hero doesn't kill and all this kind of nonsense. But yep, you're absolutely right. That is a totally good example of the execution of that, Eric. Because Rose, so let me get this straight, Rose. You don't want him to kill himself, so you're going to do something that very well could kill him in an attempt to try to stop him from killing himself. That's what you're doing here. You're absolutely right, but we see it all the time. We see it all the time, right? So it's kind of funny that way. Okay. Let's see. Just had the big jump. How far back do I got to go? Okay, that's how far back I got to go. All right. Let's see here. Alex Von Gollum writes, hey, Gio, if a new Endgame trailer is released after Captain Marvel's opening weekend, over under 30% she appears in it. It could help her movie have strong legs. I'll tell you what, Alex, I still don't know why they haven't put her in the trailers. Because Marvel did that with Black Panther. There was Black Panther in an Infinity War trailer before Black Panther came out. How'd that do for Black Panther? Pretty damn good. So I'm really surprised they didn't execute the same strategy. I'm really surprised they didn't execute the same strategy there. I thought they would have. So, look, I will say I believe we will see Captain Marvel in the next Avengers trailer. But I believe we would have seen her in the first one. And I certainly believe we would have seen her in the second one, and we haven't for either. So I'll sit here and say again that I think we're going to see Captain Marvel in the next trailer. But, I mean, maybe they won't, but I think they will. All right. Pedro Augusto Marquez writes, did you saw Chloe Moretz's comment on voting at the Oscars, saying she would not vote for someone she didn't like and stuff? Didn't sound like a joke, by the way. Yeah, I did. She said in an interview, if I remember it right, Chloe Grace Moretz, who is a voting member of the Academy now, this was her first year that she got to be a voting member. She said that if it came down to two people, she, I don't know, might vote for who she thinks is nicer. Something like that, right? Not the right attitude, but again, that just goes to the point. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences is made up of over 7,000 members who are all individuals. And they all bring with it their own perspectives, point of views, experiences, whatever. And so you're going to get a Chloe Grace Moretz who says something like that. You're going to get, it's 7,000 members. So I don't think there's anything, there's no story here. There's no point here to be made. It's one voting member out of 7,000. And the sheer number of voting members, when you have that many voting members, common sense seems to even the playing field out. You'll get a few members who think one way. You'll get a few members who think another. Remember, there's that one year that one of the members admitted that they didn't see one of the movies, but they were going to vote for it anyway. Remember that? But that was one member out of 7,000. So their one vote gets evened out by the such large numbers. I wouldn't worry about it at all. I wouldn't worry about it. Let's see. Lone Wolf X6 writes, Shaw get into a fight with Captain America and Captain screams justice for Han. Hashtag Shaw had it coming. Nah, man, nah. Nope, I think the universe is grateful that Han is gone, and it's no big surprise that all the box office of the movie started skyrocketing after Han died. There you go. This is a discussion we've had a million times. Warren Lucas writes, can't wait for John Wick 3 in May. Looking at the stronger competition for John Wick 2 opening against Lego Batman and 50 Shades 2. Over under 50% John Wick opens to 40 million plus. I don't know. I'm going to take the under on that for a couple of reasons. Number one, John Wick films have never traditionally opened big. John Wick 1, I think, opened to like $15 million. John Wick 2 opened to $30 million. John Wick 3 hasn't had a world of marketing. Like, I haven't seen a ton of spots for John Wick 3. They're not putting a whole ton of money into marketing this film because they know they don't need to make a ton of money to be profitable. They know this. I'm going to take under 50% that it makes 40 million. I don't think it'll make 40 million, and that's okay because it doesn't need to make 40 million. 40 million, that's a 25% jump. Actually, that's a 33% jump over John Wick 2. Is John Wick 3 going to take a 33% jump over the opening of John Wick 2? I don't think so. It's possible. I wouldn't say it's only a 10% chance or anything like that, but I will take the under 50% on that. We'll have to wait and see. All right. I just can't wait to see it, though. I'm very, very excited for this movie, Warren. Very excited for this movie. All right. I have said writes, worst Kenneth Branagh film, in my opinion, Wild Wild West. Well, remember, he didn't direct that film, though. Kenneth Branagh was in that film, but he didn't direct that film. At least I'm pretty sure he didn't direct it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think he directed that. It is hard to think of a worse film than that he was in. I'd have to look over his filmography. I'm upset, but I might have to agree with you on that. Maybe once I double check his filmography, I change my mind, but that's not a bad one. That's actually a pretty safe bet to go with. I'm upset. All right. Zeke Said So writes, thoughts on the 1999 Mummy film with Brendan Fraser. It is my favorite movie of all time. Well, I'll tell you right now, Zeke, it's nowhere even near the conversation for me of the greatest film of all time. But I had fun with it. I had fun with all the Mummy movies. Even the last not so great one they did. I liked all the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies. I had fun with it. I thought it was good. I thought Brendan Fraser gave us a great antagonist for it. I thought at the time the visual effects were pretty cool. I dug the movie. Yeah, I like Brendan Fraser's Mummy. I've always kind of wanted them to do another one. I really do. With Brendan Fraser. I would like to see that. Again, nowhere near any kind of conversation of favorite movie of all time or anything like that for me. Nowhere near that, but I quite enjoyed the series. So, and I would dig to see another one. Kevin Campbell writes, "Hey John, did you see that Venom 2 starts production in November without Ruben Fleischer?" I think so. I can't remember exactly if that's true. Hold on a second. Have they announced a director for Venom 2? Let me just see here. Venom 2 comes out in 2020. We've known that for a while. And as of right now, they still don't have a director on board. That to me is problematic. Saying we're going in production in November and we don't even have a director attached right now, that to me is red flags. Now it's okay. It doesn't have to be Ruben Fleischer. I thought Ruben did a fine job with the first one, but it's totally cool if they got another director. That's fine. But for them to say we're going into production in November and we don't even have our director attached yet, who's overseeing the pre-production on this? Who's the one getting everything ready for a November shooting date? Because there's a lot of work to be done on a movie before you start shooting. And yeah, to me, that's problematic. That makes me a little bit worried, Kevin. And I really enjoyed Venom. I really enjoyed it. All right, Matt Thornton writes, "Just got back from my local Comic-Con today and actually spent the whole weekend as Dr. Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror. So proud." One of the best things that I love about these comic conventions and any of these pop culture conventions really is the cosplaying. Now, there are some idiots, I won't say idiots, there are some people who just think it's ridiculous that people dress up and things. It's like, come on, man. Seriously? It's fun. Like, these conventions are a place where you can go and celebrate your fandom. And if part of your one of the expressions of your celebrations of fandom is get dressed up as some of your favorite, most iconic characters, then that's great. It's not like you're doing that going to work. It's not like you're doing that going to the DMV. These comic conventions should be a place where if you want to express your fandom by dressing up as that it's a safe place to do that, and you can go and do it with other people who are having fun expressing their fandom that way. And I think that's something to be celebrated. I think that's something to be celebrated. Like, one of my honest, this is shallow. I admit, this is shallow. I used to love listening to Jim Rome, who is a sportscaster. I used to love listening to Jim Rome. And I didn't make a conscious decision to do this, but I remember one day I was listening to this show and he came out really critical. Like, it's one thing to say, I don't like people dressing up as characters. That's fine. But I remember listening to this one episode of Rome is Burning, and he went off on people who dress up at these sorts of things and called them a lot of names and all this kind of stuff. It's like just people who just celebrating their fandom. But he went off on them. Again, it's one thing he says, I don't like that stuff. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But he didn't just do that. He went off on them. And I didn't even realize it till like 6 months later that I stopped listening to Jim Rome. I didn't make a decision to stop listening to him. It's just I realized about 6 months later, I just realized I haven't tuned in or listened to anything Jim Rome said ever since that time. And it's not like I made a conscious decision. It's just that I got so turned off by that I just personally stopped listening to him. He's a great sportscaster, but I guess that just affected my opinion of him so much that I stopped listening. And that's shallow. I admit that is shallow. That's a shallow reason to stop listening to a sportscaster just because he doesn't like people dressing up. But again, it wasn't just that he was saying he didn't like it. He went off on people who did it, like really went off on them. And I thought, no, this is something to be celebrated, you know? So I love that you had a chance to do that, Matt. Anyway, Jack Tatum writes, hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much, Jack. Just wanted to ask your thoughts on Superbad. I love it. I really like Superbad. Now, I don't think it's one of the greatest comedies of all time, okay? There are some people, totally get it, who when they think of Superbad, it's like top 10 most iconic. For a lot of people, it's like a top 10 most iconic comedies ever. Wasn't quite that for me because I didn't laugh quite as much as some other people, but it's great. It's great. One of the few films that I've actually liked Michael Cera in. Uh, that and what's the Edgar Wright film? Scott Pilgrim. I love him in Scott Pilgrim. Superbad's one of the only films I've actually liked Sarah in. It's the movie that gave us McLovin. Emma Stone's great in it. You had a great supporting cast as well, some really iconic comedic names. Yeah, I like it. I liked it. I liked it very much. All right, Ryan Lohner. And guys, this is going to be the last question I take before our 5-minute break. My voice is just about gone. I got to go gargle some warm water and refill my drink here. So we're going to take a 5-minute break here after I take this next question from Ryan. All right, Ryan writes, just finished Haunting of Hill House. I usually hate jump scares, but the car argument may be one of the greatest ever. I did not watch Haunting of Hill House all the way through. I saw like 2 or 3 episodes, and I liked it, but I just never got around to watching the whole thing. Ann and Ray watched the whole thing, and they said it was totally freaky, and they loved it. So I don't know the car argument that you're talking about. I don't know that one. When I think of the car scene in a horror, I think of Toni Collette's movie. But anyway, so I haven't seen it, so I can't really address that. Other than at some point, I got to get back on that show and finish it off because I did like the first couple of episodes, but it's just one of those things where I'm so far behind in watching so much that I just never got around because it wasn't high on my priority list. But I got to get around and finishing watching that. Okay, guys. What I'm going to do now, we've been going for a little over 2 hours now. We're going to take a short 5-minute break while I, again, gargle some salt water. I'm going to refill my drink, and then we'll be right back. Do me a favor, guys. If anybody comes along and says, hey, where's the show? Just let them know we're taking a 5-minute break. John will be right back. So I will be right back, guys. I'll talk to you in a moment, and I'll see you in just a minute. All right, guys, and we are back. I took a little bit of a break there to, gargle some water and refill my drink. And now we are back and we are ready to get rolling again. So let's pick things up again. We're going to get started here with Jack Tatum, who writes, John, what the hell do I have to do to convince my friends to watch Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade? They are so damn stubborn. First of all, why would you ever need to convince somebody? Who needs convincing to watch Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade? It's not like you're trying to talk them into watching Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of Crystal Skull. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is my favorite Indiana Jones movie. Now, for a lot of people, it's Raiders. For a lot of people, it's Temple of Doom. I get that. I've never talked to anybody that thought Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was their favorite. I'm sure there are some, but I just never met them myself. I mean, I don't know what to tell them other than to say, guys, trust me. Now, I don't know what the deal is. Have they never watched an Indiana Jones film? And if they have, do they not like the Indiana Jones films? Well, I mean, I don't know. If they've watched the Indiana Jones films and they don't like them, then maybe they wouldn't like The Last Crusade. I don't know. But, hey, man, if they don't want to watch it, that's their loss. But Last Crusade, I think, is the best in the Indiana Jones movies. It's a wonderful comedy, adventure, you name it. It's got it. I love that movie. My favorite of the series. So, man, I don't know, man. Jack, just show them my clip of me talking about it. Guys, watch this movie. You will enjoy yourself. I mean, all film's subjective. Maybe you won't, but I think there's a very high chance you're going to love this movie and you're going to see why people have talked about it for so long. All right. Let's try this here. Free Thinker writes, thoughts about Wandering Earth made $650 million in China. You know, I've read some reports questioning numbers in China, but whatever, that aside. I've never seen Wandering Earth. I know Robert Meyer Burnett, he wanted to see it, and he tried to get me to go see it with him, but I don't think he's had a chance to see it yet. I haven't had a chance to see it yet. But hey, whenever a movie's successful, that's always great. But again, I haven't seen the movie, so I can't really give any kind of an opinion on it. Michael Avalidos writes, I'm probably butchering your name, Michael. My bad. I'm terrible at names. Forgive me, sir. Anyway, you misunderstood Spielberg comment. He wants all movies vying for Oscars to have widescreen release, asked Academy to change the rules. Okay, well, that, like I said, I hadn't seen his newest comments. I'm just going on his older comments. So I had said when I tried to answer that question, I said, hey, I haven't seen his newest comments. I do know he has said this, though, in the past. So I just thought it was a continuation of that. That he thinks all movies... I mean, there's an argument there to be made. Because as of right now, the rule is to be Oscar eligible, to be eligible to be considered for the Oscars, your movie has to play in at least one movie theater screen for at least 1 week in Los Angeles and New York, where paying customers can go and buy tickets to watch the movie. That's all you have to do to be eligible. So that's why when like Netflix has a movie they think could possibly get some Oscar buzz, they will book out a couple of theaters in New York and Los Angeles, put it in theaters for a week so it becomes eligible. Now, what you're saying is Spielberg is saying that for a movie to be Oscar eligible, it should be a real legitimate theatrical movie that plays wide release theatrically. Okay. I see there being benefits to that. I see there being arguments for both sides of that. One is the movie-going experience is the theatrical experience. So I can see where he's coming from. But at the same time, a movie is a movie. Whether you put it on the big screen or you put it on the small screen, a movie is a movie. And if one is good enough to be considered the best, then why does where it played come into consideration? The movie's the movie. Why does where it played come into consideration as to whether or not it should be considered eligible for an award or not? I don't know. Again, I'm not going to pretend that I've sat down and done a lot of research into the topic. I haven't. So all I'm going to say right now is that I can see arguments on both sides of that. I do. All right. CMJ World writes, have you ever thought of doing a weekly top 10 countdown? I don't know. There's so many top 10 countdown things, like countdown of what, like a different David Letterman top 10 that's been done. I'll tell you what I am thinking about doing. It's something I used to do a long time ago. I used to do this thing once a week that people found useful, just doing my weekly top 5 power rankings. That very much comes out of my sports background, but where every week giving what I think are the top 5 best movies in theaters right now. And just making that a regular segment on my show. And, what I used to do is like, okay, there's a couple of rules. Number one, your movie has to be in at least 1,000 theaters. Because if it's not in 1,000 theaters, then not everybody can see it and blah, blah, blah. So it's got to be at least in 1,000 theaters and whatever. And then take all the movies that are playing in wide release right now, whether it's 1 week old, 2 weeks old, 3 weeks old, 4 weeks old, 5 weeks old, whatever. As long as it's still in at least 1,000 theaters, then it's eligible. And I would give my ranking every week of what I think the best movies in theaters right now are. But as far as just doing a random top 10, nah, probably not. Everybody does that. Everybody does that sort of thing. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it at all. But there's just so many people doing random top 10s that I don't think I'd want to do it. It's an easy traffic grab for sure. That and trailer reactions, easy traffic grabs. But, and again, nothing wrong with them. Nothing wrong with them at all. But just not the sort of thing that I do. So probably not. Don Stellato writes, yesterday you said you think Star Wars should not have any more prequel movies and should focus on sequels. However, if you make a prequel set far... Okay, let me try this again. You combine it into two different things here. Okay. Yesterday you said that you think Star Wars should not have any more prequel movies and should focus on sequels. However, if you make a prequel set far back enough before the rule of 2, so with it that far back, it would have all new characters and would give the writers more freedom than a movie like Solo and Han had it coming. I've said that exact same thing. I've always said that if you do... Like, I don't want prequels anymore. I want sequels, things that move the story forward. But I've always said for years in that discussion that, like, let's say you go to Old Republic times. Let's say you make a movie surrounding the Old Republic. Well, then you've got a different set of rules now because even though it happens in a time before, it's not a prequel. Because it's not in any way connected to any of the characters or events that have happened in the traditional Star Wars films. You're now separating yourself by thousands of years. So you're now making a movie with all new characters, all new stories, where anything can happen. Because it's separated by so much time that whatever happens in these movies really don't have to have a direct impact on what happens in the further movies. So while it happens in a previous date, it's not really a prequel. To me, it's a prequel when it's directly connected in a consequence impacting way to what happens in further movies. When you get separated by 1,000 years, that rule isn't in play. It's a totally different situation now. So while I've always said I don't want any more prequel movies, I have also at the same time said exactly what you just said. If you do like Old Republic or go back 500 years or go back 1,000 years or go back 10,000 years, then it's really not a prequel anymore. Now you're dealing with all new characters, all new stories, all new environments. It's a totally different thing, and I wouldn't consider that a prequel. It's the same thing I've said about Game of Thrones. What I'm not really interested with Game of Thrones is the events that happened 5 years before Game of Thrones Season 1. But you go back 100 years, you go back 200 years, then I'm all for a new Game of Thrones show because it's not really a prequel per se. Because you're dealing with all new characters, all new stories, then it's still its own thing. And so I agree. I agree completely. To Old Republic, I don't consider those prequels. I just don't. In a technical way it is because it's something that happens before the events of this one, but there's no direct story connection. You're getting, it's still expanding. So you're going back in time, but you're still expanding the universe. And if you can do that, then I'm all for it. I'm all for that. Okay. Ryan Lohner writes, One Day at a Time is a Netflix show and loosely based on the old show, still with 97-year-old Norman Lear involved. Rita Moreno is a regular. Okay, so it is connected to the old One Day at a Time show. I didn't even know there was a new incarnation of it. I didn't even know there was a new incarnation of. I had no idea, and I didn't even know it still had connections. That's interesting. I might have to go back and check it out. I might have to check it out. Now, I mean, I think One Day at a Time was even before my time, but I might have to go back and check this out just to see what that's about, because that sounds interesting. All right, thanks for following up on that, Ryan. NPE94 writes, rank these in terms of what you find more annoying at movie theater. People using phones, people eating smelly foods, or sitting next to a couple with public displays of affection. Well, I don't like ranking anything. I will honestly tell you the only thing that bothers me is people using phones. Look, who among us has not had made out in a movie theater? Come on. And who else does not like the idea of making out in a movie theater? Come on. I honestly, it doesn't bother me. If people are making out in the theater, doesn't bother me. As long as their feet aren't getting in my lap and everything like that, then I'm totally good. And as long as they try to keep it quiet, do it quietly, then that is fine. I don't mind it, because we've all been there. So that I don't mind. Smelly foods also doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother me. Somebody's eating food. Okay, we eat food when we watch movies. That's cool. Yeah, it's too bad. But you're an asshole if you use your phone in a theater. Period. You're an asshole if you use your phone in the theater. Do not use your phone in the theater. There's no excuse. There's none. Get your stupid ass up. If you really need to use your phone right now, get your stupid ass up, walk out into the hallway, and then pull your phone out. But hey, we all eat in the movies. That's fine. We've all been there about making out in movies. That's fine. I have no judgment for that. But using phones in your theater, you're an asshole if you do that. Don't do this. So that's the one that bothers me. All right. Let's see. The Avatar Yoshi writes. That's a cool name. Hi, John. I hope you're as excited for Captain Meowville as I am. So which do you prefer, Kree or Skrull? I'm kind of a Kree guy. But who knows? Maybe once I see the movie tomorrow, I will change my mind. I am excited for it. I will say, I'm not as excited for it as I was for, say, Black Panther, or as I was for, say, Doctor Strange, or as I was for Infinity War. I'm still excited for it, but the reality is, while a couple of the trailers have been pretty good, I've said this from day one, I have not been overwhelmed by the marketing campaign for this movie. You know, for a lot of the Marvel properties, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Infinity War, these are marketing campaigns that basically jumped off the screen and grabbed you by the throat and got your attention. You are going to watch this movie. You know, it's had that. I have not felt the same about the Captain Marvel. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. You had an Oscar-winning actress in the lead. You know, Kevin Feige is overseeing this thing. It's the movie that leads us into Endgame, is going to be relevant to Endgame. Lots of reasons to be excited. But if I'm being honest, it has not exactly blown my socks off with this marketing. Now, I'm one of these rare guys that, hey, I'm going to be excited for this movie even without any marketing, because it's an MCU film. I'm looking forward to Endgame and blah, blah, blah. But I've never thought it was a great marketing campaign. I just haven't. So I'm excited, but not as excited as I have been with other movies that have, on top of everything else, also brought a great marketing campaign to get me psyched. They haven't done that. Not done a bad job, but I've seen them do better with their marketing. I've seen Marvel do better with their marketing, and I really hope they pick it up as they move forward. I hope the marketing we've gotten in Captain Marvel isn't an indication of the marketing we're going to get moving forward. And I'll be honest with you, straight up, I haven't been blown away by the marketing for Endgame either. I haven't been blown away by the marketing for Endgame. I know there's a lot of people who are going to yell and scream at me if I say anything other than pure perfection about Marvel, but I haven't been overly impressed with it. I think it's been pretty cool. I've enjoyed what I've seen, but they haven't blown my socks off. Not like they did for Infinity War. So let's see what happens. Anyway, Kevin Campbell writes, do you think we'll ever see Part 1 and Part 2 format return, or did Divergent flopping scare studios away from that format? I honestly think it's a really bad decision to come out of the gate with part 1 and part 2 because you're making an assumption before you have any concrete information. You don't know if the audience is even interested in your films. And if you come out of the gate saying, we're doing part 1 and part 2 right away, blah, 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 blah. Well, what if people don't like part 1? Now you've made yourself look stupid. A good example of that is the Universal Monsters thing, the dark universe they try to do, right? Now, that technically is in part 1 and part 2, but it shows what happens when you get ahead of yourself. Do one movie. See how it does. See how you feel about it as the studio. See how the audience felt about it. See all this kind of stuff. And save a little bit of face. Now, it's different when you have a hit movie and you've got solid data behind you to then go, we're going to shoot 2 and 3 back to back. We're going to do part 1, part 2, all this. We're going to do all that kind of stuff because we have functional, actionable data that we know the audience likes these movies. We've had a good experience. We like what we've done here, blah, blah, blah. Then move forward. But wait until then. So it may have tempered them a bit. And I think that's a good thing, Kevin. I think that's a good thing. The Avatar Yoshi writes, oh, sorry, meant to say Captain Marvel. I was thinking up superhero cat names with my friend. My bad. Oh, I thought you were just talking about Goose. I thought you were just making a joke in reference to Goose the cat, who, of course, in the comic books is called Chewie, but they couldn't use the word Chewie in this, so they called it Goose, which is, of course, a reference to Top Gun as Maverick's wingman, Goose. Anyway, you all know that. But yeah, I thought you were just making a joke about Goose. So it's all good, Yoshi. It's all good. All right. Noah Schultzman writes, chances we will see Whedon's Firefly characters on screen in some form ever again, whether that's a reboot, movie sequel, new show, animated, etc. Low. I think it's low. There was Firefly and Serenity will never be as popular as they used to be. There's still a very strong, loyal, small core of fans of it, but there was a time when you could have done it, but that time has passed. That time has passed. By the way, I still think Serenity is one of the best sci-fi movies of the past 10, 15 years. I love Serenity. Serenity was so good. We're talking about the standalone movie they did. So great. And it was so good, you didn't even have to know the show. I saw the movie before I saw the show, I believe. And I was totally up to date on everything that was happening. I love that movie. That movie's great. But whenever you talk about the chances of something ever again, like you use the words, in some form ever again, whenever you use the word ever, it's almost a guarantee because anything can happen 15 years from now, 20 years from now. Anything is possible if you use the word ever. What do I think of the chances of seeing a new Firefly within the next 3 to 4 years? Pretty minimal. It would be awesome if they do. Awesome if they do. But I think pretty minimal. But ever's a long time. So, and you know what? They're always going back and looping back around, trying to take another shot at new IPs and properties. So maybe, yeah, maybe. Lord of the Isles writes, in my opinion, the MCU does the better films, but the DCEU has the best film. Man of Steel is fucking amazing. Well, I still think the greatest comic book movie of all time is the first Avengers movie. I still think that is just the epitome of everything a comic book movie should be. It's my all-time favorite. But Man of Steel is absolutely in my top 10. And then, of course, you've got to talk about The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight, there's a lot of people who feel The Dark Knight is the greatest all-time comic book film. To me, the top three is Avengers, Dark Knight, and Logan. To me, those are the three greatest comic book movies ever made, in my opinion. Now, everybody will have a different opinion, and that's all great. That's all great and wonderful and all that kind of stuff. But Man of Steel is a special movie. Man of Steel is a special movie. Now, I've got to try to temper myself because I talk about Man of Steel so freaking much that I know it makes some people sick because I talk Man of Steel so freaking often. But it is, to me, the most underrated comic book movie ever made. This is a movie that too much of the audience does not recognize how great that movie is. But again, it's all subjective, and I'm not going to get bitter about it. But I will take every opportunity I have to proclaim the greatness of Man of Steel. I freaking love this movie. You will never hear me say anything otherwise. It doesn't mean it's a perfect film, but no film is. But yeah, so yeah, there it is. So you and me, man, you and me. Okay. Reptar King writes, where are we at here? There we are. Amy, who plays Ella on Lucifer, said on the Inside of You podcast that her and Tom will be showing butt. Do you think the show will get more violent? Thanks. Well, I've been saying for a while, Reptar, that Lucifer is a very suggestive show. I mean, from the jokes, you remember the episode, to the orgies, with the suggestions of orgies, having Lucifer wake up with 4 different people in his bed, and so all the sexual innuendo jokes. I mean, that show is loaded with sexual innuendo jokes, blah, blah, blah. I've said that one of the things I wonder is, as they move the show over to Netflix, will they take advantage of Netflix and maybe do a little bit of R-rated material? Like, don't fundamentally change the nature of the show. Don't suddenly go to a full graphic R-rated extravaganza, but maybe take a little bit of advantage. Look, there's so much sexual innuendo. He is Satan, after all. He is the devil. And he can do some pretty nasty things to people. Maybe just explore that stuff a little. Put a little bit of R-rated material in there. Because it is, I don't want sex for the sake of sex. Although I love the filthy. Bring on the filthy. But not just sex for the sake of sex, but it is in nature with the character. It is in tune with the narrative of this story. And maybe take advantage of that and have a little bit more gratuitous stuff. But maybe explore a little bit more of the sex in it and a little bit of the more explicit material. Again, not just for the sake of doing it, but because it is in step with the narrative. So, yeah, her saying that she's actually going to show a little butt in it and that Tom is too, I'm not surprised. And actually that excites me a little bit because it tells me that Netflix will allow the show to go a little bit into R-rated material. And again, not just for the sake of it, but because it's in tune and in step with the nature of the show. And I think that's an exciting thing. So let's see what happens. All right. Let's see. Lord of the Isles writes, can't keep pretending to be your son. You are my son. Oh my God, that line. Can't we just keep pretending? Can I just keep pretending that I'm your son? And the way Kevin Costner delivers that line, you are my son. Like, I'm getting chills. Again, hair standing up on my arm right now. See the bumps? I'm getting chills just thinking about the scene. When he says that, I break. You are my son. Such a freaking great line. By the way, Kevin Costner's performance in Man of Steel is tragically underrated. Kevin Costner's Jonathan Kent is tragically underrated in that movie. I think he's great in that film. And one of the reasons that movie has so much heart, in my opinion. I just love what he does in that movie. Okay. Warren Lucas writes, Alex Ovechkin could get his 8th Rocket Richard Trophy this season, most ever, beating Bobby Hull. In my opinion, top 5 goal scorer. Toronto-Washington Conference Final. Well, Toronto-Washington Conference Final is totally possible. Washington hasn't had the same year. They've had a little bit of a post-party letdown year, if you will. They have not been the same team I expected them to be this year, but Ovechkin is one of the great pure goal scorers. Now, he is not the overall player that, say, a Sidney Crosby is, or a Mario Lemieux was, or certainly a Wayne Gretzky. But when it comes to being a pure goal scorer, Bobby Hull, Alexander Ovechkin, Mike Bossy, these are all names that are up there, and I do believe that his name deserves to be in that conversation. Maybe not the best overall player, but he definitely deserves to be in that conversation, because whenever he's on the ice and the puck is on his stick, he can score in the blink of an eye. And yeah, he will go down, I think, at the end. When his career is done, he'll go down being known as one of the best pure goal scorers. I believe that for sure. Roman Bryant writes, do you think Marvel has plans for Green Goblin? I don't think Marvel... Look, there's so many people who thinks that Marvel has got everything, all their X-Men plans already planned out. They already know when they're going to bring in the Galactic. I honestly believe that Kevin Feige is 100% telling the truth when he says, we haven't even really started planning for anything with that yet. Will they do something with Green Goblin? Remember, though, Green Goblin is not a part of the X-Men universe. That's a Sony thing. The question isn't, does Marvel have plans for Green Goblin? The question is, does Sony have plans for Green Goblin? That's the question. because that's Sony's decision to make, not Marvel's. So if Sony has no plans for Green Goblin and Sony gives their consent to say, Marvel, you can use Green Goblin if you want to, then maybe we're looking at a Green Goblin in a third Spider-Man film. This is, of course, all contingent upon that Sony and Marvel extend their deal, because Far From Home is the final film in their deal. I think they will extend it. And as long as Sony's okay with it, but if Sony has plans for Green Goblin, and like a Venom 2, or Venom 3, or a standalone Green Goblin movie, then no, Marvel won't be allowed to use them. But if they give their consent, they will. And then I'm sure they will at some point. Murray Reich writes, do you think we will see a new trend in the next few years at theaters where you can order a freestyle machine but with popcorn? Oh, order at a freestyle machine. I see what you're saying. I don't know why not. Now, granted, popcorn is more difficult to serve up than soda. But so for those of you who don't know, a freestyle machine is these machines now in theaters where you go and serve up your own drink. And they have like 80 different types of drinks. And you hit, I want regular diet, regular. Coke, blah, 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 all the different options. Coke. Okay, do you want cherry Coke, lime Coke, this Coke, this? So 18 different types of Coke, this Coke. And you serve it up and then you serve yourself. It's really great. And it keeps the concession lines moving. Could you do something like that with popcorn? It is more problematic because you got to freshly make the popcorn, keep it heated, serve it up, and store. It's tough. Like the storage and delivery of soda is so much easier than popcorn. I would like to see them do it. It would be good to see them do it. It'd be nice if you could just go up to one of these things. And wouldn't it be great too if you could just pay at the machine yourself? So you have 20 machines lined up and you just walk over, swipe your credit card and say, I'd like a large Coke Zero and a medium popcorn with butter. And then in one thing, here comes the big cup, drink fills up, and then here comes your popcorn bag, fills it up with popcorn and butter on it, boom, ready to go, bang. It would be great, but the engineering of it might be a little tricky because, again, serving up popcorn could be a little bit different. But I would love it if they did. I would absolutely love it if they did. All right, Kevin Campbell writes, any chance at all Craig stays on after Bond 25? Does Bond 25 have to be his last one? Maybe Bond 25 reinvigorates his love for the character. I think it's time for Daniel to move on. I do. I think it's time for him to move on. Daniel Craig is my all-time favorite Bond. I've never liked somebody as Bond more than Daniel Craig. To me, he's the perfect amalgamation of the Roger Moore Bond and the Sean Connery Bond. The suaveness of the Moore Bond, the badass of the Connery Bond, and he's the perfect mixture of the two. But he's been playing Bond a long time. And I think it's time, and I think it's good for the franchise. I think it's good for the franchise. I think it is time to move on. I think it's time for Daniel Craig to move on, and I think it's time for Bond to move on. That's not to say I don't love Daniel Craig's Bond still. I still do. But I think it's best for Craig, and I think it's best for Bond that now that he's had his run, it's healthy now for Bond to introduce a new Bond. And I think it's healthy for Daniel Craig to move on from Bond and go into the next stage of his career. So is it possible? Like if you ask, is there any chance? Well, of course there's any chance. But I think it's very unlikely. And quite frankly, as a fan of Daniel Craig and as a fan of James Bond, I think it is time for him to go. I think it's best for him. I think it's best for Bond. He's had a great run as Bond. He'll go down as one of the greats. Now it's time for the next chapter in both his career and for Bond. That's my opinion at any rate. Okay. NPE94 writes, do you ever feel there's just too much content? Oh, sure. But I mean, only in the sense that it's difficult for me to watch it all. But it's great that there is so much content for so many different types of people that you can watch and enjoy. So, I don't know. It goes back and forth, NPE. Curtis Lopez writes, chances of Steve Irwin Collider Hunter or Crocodile Hunter biopic. I'd say there's a chance. Sure, it's an interesting story. We just hit an anniversary, I believe, of his passing, and ESPN has been running old commercials they did with him in the past, which is always good to see. So, chances? Yeah, there's a chance. But again, I don't know enough about his life to know if there's an interesting story there to tell, other than he made a popular show. He died tragically doing what he did. I don't know if there's much more to tell. Maybe there is. I'm not saying there's not. I just don't know. So it's hard to say. Jorge Granado writes, one reason I don't support digital is lack of language options. All movies I've purchased on Google Play or Prime only have English options. Well, again, Jorge, that's all good. Everything's going to come because in digital, there's every option. I know on a lot of my movies I buy on Google Play, it gives me like 5, 6, 7, 8 different language options. Like when I go to the menu on my Batman versus Superman, I have several language options there. But at any rate, look, digital may not be at the point right now that it has everything right now, but it's all coming. It's all coming. So by the time Blu-ray has breathed its last breath, it'll be there, and you'll have all this stuff. Because there's simply nothing you can do on physical media that you can't do with streaming. And wherever there are some deficiencies, they're going to close that gap. It's coming. It just is. And that's why Blu-ray sales have dropped so significantly year after year after year. That's why Blu-ray player sales have dropped so significantly year after year after year, because you can pretty much get everything you need and want right now in digital streaming. And what you can't get is coming. But yeah, there are still advantages to physical media. Absolutely. There's still advantages, but it's not an opinion thing. Blu-ray is going away. It's going away. And streaming is going to become the de facto service. So it's all a matter of how good do they make that streaming service. Well, hey, but if they want to make more money, make it better. The better you make it, the more money they're going to make. And that greed is what's going to make them make sure you have all the options you want. Greed will motivate them to make sure you have all the options you want. It will come. All right. Marcus Robert Johnson writes, just watched Christopher Robin for the first time. I really enjoy that movie. I thought it was wonderful and beautiful. I wanted to cry the whole damn time. The first act is odd. And I remember the first time I watched Christopher Robin. I watched it in a theater with a bunch of other film critics. And I think a lot of people were a little taken aback by the first act of the film. And I think it lost some people in the first act of the film. And like I said even earlier in the show, once you lose somebody, it's hard to get them back. They did make some odd choices with the first act of the film, but once you get past the first act, the movie hits its stride and becomes so charming and so heartfelt and so adorable. And the visual effects, there's a reason that movie was nominated for Best Visual Effects, because I never once questioned that those were stuffed animals really come to life, because they didn't look like visual effects at all. And I ended up really thinking that was a special little movie. Jorge Granado follows up with, I redeem the codes and maybe get Spanish subs. Yeah, again, I think there are still deficiencies, Jorge, although I have had a number of my movies that I own, I do have a bunch of stuff, but I think there are still deficiencies. But again, I don't think it's something worth worrying about, because it will come. All that stuff will come, because they want you to buy their movie. And if getting you to buy their movie means we put in French, they'll put in French. If getting you to buy their movie means they put in Swahili, they'll put in Swahili. Greed, as said in Wall Street, as the great Gecko said, greed is good. Greed works. And in a situation like this, it's true, because it's going to be greed that makes them, because they want as much of our money as possible, so they're going to make them as buyable as possible for us. Those gaps will get closed. But you're absolutely right. That is a current deficiency. Okay. Let's see here. Marcus Robert Johnson writes, where did I go? There I am. The day when I said if UFOs were real, Trump would tweet about it, I meant every president goes to Area 51, right? Could Trump really keep that a secret? Make a movie where he accidentally exposes alien life over Twitter, LOL. I remember the comment now, and I'm like, I don't know what you're getting at with that, but I don't want to talk about politics here on this show. Here's the thing. In a world now where this is just a remote control, but let's pretend this is a cell phone. In a world where almost all human beings, particularly in first world countries, walk around with advanced computing global communication devices, audio-visual global communication devices in our pockets, because that's what cell phones are now. They are global communication, audio-visual communication devices, it seems harder and harder that any giant secrets could actually be kept. And in a world where we have the internet and information and all that kind of stuff, it seems unlikely. And if your point is that if such a secret exists, that it would be difficult for Trump or any president to know about it and not have it get out in some way, again, in a world where we all have these global communication devices in our pockets, seems more and more unlikely. It does seem more and more unlikely, Marcus, for sure. And when you have any individual, whether they be a president or not, who maintains themselves very active in social media, that such a thing might slip, it only increases the chances of that, perhaps, regardless of who it is. So I see what you're saying, and yeah, I think there's some validity to that. Anyway, okay. Where are we at now? That was Marcus. Okay, next one up is Kevin Campbell, who writes, is it true that Lucas originally wanted to direct Force Awakens, then sell to Disney? Lucas was looking at doing another one. He had meetings with Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher. They talked about it before he made the decision to sell to Disney. Yes, he was looking at bringing Star Wars back. That much we know. What we don't know, at least I don't think we know, is whether or not he was actually going to direct himself, or whether he was going to pull a Empire Strikes Back or a Return of the Jedi and get somebody else to direct in his stead. I don't know that for sure. Maybe there is information about that. I just don't know off the top of my head. But I believe it is true that he was thinking about making another Star Wars film that I believe was going to focus on the children of the heroes from the original films. Like the original heroes would be back, but the movies would focus on the children of those heroes. I think that's the direction he was going, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be wrong about that. Marie Seifring writes, I'm late to the party today. Sorry if I already asked. Are you having a Captain Marvel spoiler discussion? I'm seeing it March 8th. Thanks. Absolutely. We are going to have now, as is my thing, I don't like it when sites put up spoiler discussions like the day the movie comes out or the day after, because you haven't given people the chance to go see it yet, and all you're doing is arming all the trolls who just want to get all the spoilers and go out and spread the spoilers around, right? So what I will probably do is I will do the spoiler review. Let me just look at a calendar here right now. So the movie comes out, I mean, they say the opening day is the 8th. That's Friday. What we know that really means Thursday night. So that's really the 7th. So what I will probably do is I will probably give everybody Thursday, all day Friday, all day Saturday, and then I will probably do my spoiler review on Sunday the 10th. I've kind of been doing my spoiler reviews on the Sundays just to give enough people a chance to go out and actually see the film. And to make sure I'm not a part of the problem in disseminating a lot of spoiler information for trolls to then take and go spread around the internet and spoil people on the film. So that's my habit. So yes, I am aiming right now, Marie, for Sunday, March the 10th to do my Captain Marvel spoiler review. Unless I hate the movie. Then I might not do a spoiler review if I hate it. But I will give my review of the movie on Tuesday. This Tuesday, I will give my review of the movie, and then we'll probably do a big open spoiler discussion on a week from today. So that's what I'm looking at. All right, D. Campbell just sends in a super chat. Thank you, D. Campbell and Garrett both just send in super chats. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate that. Let's see. And then D. Campbell sends in another one. He writes in, just saw Polar on Netflix. I'm dying to see that. I love me some Mads anytime. By the way, they still make VHS players, so I don't think Blu-ray players will become entirely extinct. Who makes Wait, what? They actually still make... Hold on a second. Let me go to Amazon. They actually still make VHS players? I have a hard time believing that. Well, I certainly can't find anything on... What am I looking? Craig Compact DVD JPEG CD. No, that's not a VHS player. That's not a I don't see. Oh, wait a minute. Sanyo. I'm looking on Amazon right now. For $500, There's a Sanyo combination VCR and DVD recorder with for $500. I put VHS player. Let me put VCR. Let's see what I come up with here, because now I'm obsessed with this. That's Blu-ray. That's a DVD player. That's a disc player. Actually, no. There's a company called Funai, and Funai puts out a VCR for $300. You can get on it. It's only got 1 star, so obviously there's something really crappy with it. But no, there's a Sony SLV N55. Although this is an old model, so this is buying used. This isn't buying new. So, but there is a new one from Sanyo, $500. You can buy a VCR. So there you go. There you go. Yeah, I won't look. I said before too, in the discussion about Blu-ray players. One of the things I said is like, look, I don't think they'll ever 100% disappear, because like, look at vinyl. Right? Vinyl's still around today, but it's very hard to get the vinyl you want. For all intents and purposes, you're not going to be able to get the movies you want to get on Blu-ray in the future. That's just the way it is. But will Blu-ray still exist? Will there still be a niche market like there is for vinyl and stuff like that? Yeah, I believe that's the case. I do believe that. And you will still get minor little things like Sanyo making a $500 VCR player if you want to get one. They'll still be there. It'll just be... That'll just be a problem. As far as Polar, I really can't wait to see it. I think the trailers look great. I've not heard great things about it, so that's impacted my enthusiasm a little bit, but I still want to see it. And it is on Netflix, so I should watch it here pretty soon. All right. Mishta47 writes, how do regular people get into movie premieres without winning a contest? Is there a reliable way? No, you got to be invited. You have to be invited to go to a premiere. It's not a thing where you just buy tickets to it and you go to it. You got to be invited. So, yeah, there's that. Ryan Lohner writes, SNL made your exact point about Kraft going to Nevada last night. Oh, did they? Yeah, I've been saying that. It's like, why? You're Robert Kraft. You're one of the richest guys in the world. I've been saying this ever since the story came out. Why did you not just go to Nevada? It's legal in Nevada. It's regulated in Nevada. It's got oversight in Nevada. You can go to Nevada and go to a place, and if you want to pay for sex, you can go pay for sex. Go do it there. Why would you get on a plane and fly to Florida where it's not legal and get busted in some cheap massage You're Robert Kraft. You're one of the richest guys in the world. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Why do smart people do the dumbest things sometimes? I just don't get it. Anyway, thanks for that, Ryan. I'll have to check that out. Chris Parson writes, into the Turtleverse with darker comic turtles. Hey, man, Chris, you're preaching my kind of sermon, man. I've been saying forever, I would love an incarnation of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the original form. The original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, back in their black and white comic days, they were dark and violent, and they were not skateboard, cowabunga-loving, pizza-loving dudes. You know? At some point, they transformed into pizza-loving, cowabunga skateboarders. But at one point, they weren't that. They were dark and violent and fighting the ninja and all this kind of stuff, and it was awesome. It was awesome. And if they did something like that, Chris, I'd be all for it. All right, Richard Karate writes, best Nicholas Winding Refn movie, your thoughts? To me, it's I want to say Drive. Hold on a second. I want to say Drive. That movie is just incredible. And it's funny because when you listen to Nicholas Winding Refn talk about it, he talks about it as a superhero. He calls it a superhero origin movie. That's how he refers to it, a superhero origin movie. He did Neon Demon recently, which is pretty good. But yeah, for me, it's Drive will probably always be my favorite. I think it's a really, really good film. And I think that's probably always going to be my favorite film of his. Ant Banks 1984 writes, in your opinion, John, what makes The Godfather one of the greatest films ever made? Was it seeing the transformation of Michael Corleone, good to evil? Oh, dude, come on. Are you seriously asking me? Come on. Are you seriously asking me to get into what would need to be a 1 or 2 hour discussion and say, hey, in 30 seconds, what makes Godfather so great? look, there are multiple things about The Godfather going into it. It's the exploration of the clashing of various cultures, where they're talking, the transition from Italy to America, and the whole backstory of that. It's the way they tell the story non-linearly. Like, that's the thing Godfather, they did, especially through 1 and 2, when you combine them, they just tell the story so non-linearly that adds so much richness to the characters. Yes, there's that great transformation of what leads a guy like Michael Corleone from what we first meet him in to that final scene when the door is being closed on his wife and these guys are kissing his ring. What brings a man from this to this? And it's the destruction and rebuilding of an entire character. There are so many things that go into making The Godfather one of the, and some people would argue, the greatest motion picture ever made. Man, it's the movie that made the word consigliere popular. I'm the consigliere. Okay. I want to be that. How do I become that? Where do you study that in school to become, one of those? Anyway, but again, Ant, way too much to go into a quick discussion here like this. We're talking about an hour to 2 hour discussion, but those are just some of the things, just on the surface, that make it one of the greatest films ever. Richard Karate writes, if you could play any fictional character in a movie, who would you choose? Oh, God, I don't know. Obviously, probably a comic book movie, but, you would think I would say Luke Skywalker, but then I would ruin Star Wars, so I wouldn't want to do that. So, any fictional character, I don't know, to be honest, Richard, the reality is, I've never had acting aspirations. I've never wanted to be an actor. I've never sat around, if I could play anybody, I don't know. So I'll just kind of default to saying probably some kind of superhero character. I think a superhero character would be fun. Nothing in Star Wars, because I wouldn't want to ruin Star Wars. I wouldn't lose any sleep if I ruined some obscure comic book character, though. So, yeah, I'll go with something comic booky. Manny Misuda writes, watch 7 Pounds. It utterly destroyed me again. Yeah, look, I'll say this. I think 7 Pounds is a Will Smith film. It's a movie that I don't think lived up to its potential. It is certainly, on paper, it is certainly powerful and moving, and there's an underlying moral of the story to it as well that's really quite well done. At the same time, I sometimes found the film to be a little heavy-handed, a little of hitting you with the obvious hammer a little bit too much. Didn't take advantage enough of subtlety and letting us really get more into the character than what the character... when what the character is doing is more important than the character, you can run into some problems there. That was one of my criticisms of the film. Look, I like 7 Pounds. I do. But it was one of those movies that I walked out of going, that's a movie that could have been real special. And was pretty good, but it could have been really special. But again, that doesn't mean that there aren't people like you, Manny, who, clearly you watched it and it did hit those notes for you. And that's the great thing about movies and the subjectivity of movies, is that it can hit us all in different ways. And clearly you hit you in a better way than it did me. And that's something to be celebrated. But yeah, I would encourage a lot of people, if you've never checked out 7 Pounds, check it out. You're not all going to love it. It's got a lot of people who didn't like it. As many people didn't like it as there are who like it. But it's certainly a movie that I think a film fan would benefit from watching, because I think it illustrates a lot of neat things that we as film fans look for. And I think it's one you should check out. So yeah, maybe that's one you should look at. Richard Karate writes, best Bill Paxton movie and performance, your thoughts? It's hard for me not to go True Lies, because True Lies is my all-time favorite movie, all-time favorite action movie. And then you're looking at characters that he played in movies like Aliens. It's like, game over, man. Game over. When you're talking about his best performances, though, he was great in Apollo 13, because a lot of people forget he was in Apollo 13. Then there was that one he did with, I think he did with Matthew McConaughey. I think it's called Frailty. And you know what? Just let me actually look that up. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Yeah, it is called Frailty. Yeah. That he did with McConaughey. And by the way, Powers Booth was in that one too. I thought his performance in that was really good. Not everybody likes Frailty. I thought it was quite good, and I thought it was one of his stronger performances, but it might be just because I am such a True Lies fan that I love his character in that movie. And I feel like it's one of those rare situations where it's like, it's hard for me to imagine anybody else other than Bill Paxton playing that guy. It's hard for me to imagine anybody else playing that guy and having the on-screen impact and effect that he had other than Bill Paxton playing it. I got a tiny dick. It's pathetic. I mean, he's so good, and I just have a hard time imagining anybody else playing that the way Bill Paxton played it. You know, so off the top of my head, that's what I'll go for. Let's see. Marie Seifring writes, have you seen the news report that Warner Brothers wants to make a sequel to Edge of Tomorrow? Thoughts? I have just, they have been talking, they said years ago they want to do a sequel to Edge of Tomorrow. I thought that was just an understood thing. They have never not wanted to do it. As a matter of fact, Tom Cruise, there's a very famous Emily Blunt interview where Emily basically talks about the fact that, yeah, like Tom and I forget the name of the director, but they're ready to go. And they asked me, can we film this at this time? And Emily said, guys, I'm shooting Mary Poppins. I can't do it at that time. But as far as I know, it's always been the plan that they were going to make a sequel to that. Always been the plan. They were never not going to make a sequel to that. That's always been a part of the plan, but it's had to wait. So I haven't read any news story. Let's see. I'm seeing something from Deadline saying Warner Brothers wants repeat of Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt's sci-fi hit Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah, but that's been, we've all known that for years. Tom Cruise tried to get it started a year or two ago to shoot, but they only delayed because Emily Blunt was doing Mary Poppins and then she was doing A Quiet Place and blah, blah, blah. It was all, as far as I've known for years now, it's just been a matter of them getting their schedules lined up and ready to go. This is not new news. Warner Brothers has wanted this forever, and rightfully so. Hopefully they won't screw up the marketing for it like they did on the first one. Hopefully. No guarantees, of course. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think that's anything new. I think that's something we've known for some time. So I don't know why these outlets are running this story. Like even Empire's running Edge of Tomorrow sequel back in active development. Well, Warner's wants a repeat. But we've known this for years. Why is this news? Anyway, so that's been my impression of it at any rate, Marie. Okay, let's see here. Where are we at here? NPE94 writes, and by the way, guys, we are now over 3 hours. We are now over 3 hours into the broadcast today. So let me just I'm going to bring up something. I'm now going to request, guys, you've got like 30 seconds here. Put in another super chat if you'd like, but I am going to make a request now that we have no more new super chats. If you have not sent in a super chat, maybe fire one in over in the next 10 seconds. But please no more super chats because we're over 3 hours and I still got a bunch of questions to go through and I want to make sure we answer all of them that have been sent in today. So I'm going to put the no more super chats, please sign. And you got like 10 seconds to put one in. Otherwise, please don't put any more. So Victor Watson, I think has just put in a super chat. Wait a second. Maybe it was Victor. Maybe it was somebody else. No, who put in the last super chat here? Haskell 420. Put in the last super chat. So please, no more super chats. Ask after Haskell's question. All right. With that said, let's get back into it here. NPE94 writes, any films you loved the first time, but you are meh on? Well, I mean, yeah. The Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace. Oh, and I'm not meh on it. Now I hate that film. But I remember I went to see that movie and I was just so, this is 20 years ago, but I went to see that movie, so excited. I just convinced myself to like it. But then every time I saw it in theater, I liked it significantly less. And then after about 5 or 6 times seeing it, I was like, no, this movie sucks. And I did the same thing with each of the prequels too. It's like, the next one's going to be great. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this one was great. And then I would watch it again. I'm like, oh, wow, that's considerably worse than the first time I watched it. And then I would watch it again and again and again, and then realize, oh, no, I just hate this movie. That's why when some people would say to me, when I really loved the Phantom Menace, when I really loved The Force Awakens, and I went to see it like 7-8 times, people would say to me, oh, you're just going to have the same thing that happened to the last Star Wars movies. And I'm like, no, because with the prequels, as soon as I saw the movie the second time, I knew I liked it significantly less. And less and less and less. Every time I've seen The Force Awakens, I've liked it more and more and more and more every time I've seen it. So that completely undermines that. But yeah, that's one that stands out to me for sure. Jim Nelson writes, I want Indy 5 with Ford to happen so bad. Man, a lot of people do. I mean, how old is Harrison Ford now? Hey, Google, how old is Harrison Ford? I think he's 73.
Harrison Ford is 76 years old.
He's 76. So by the time they start shooting it, he's going to be 77. By the time the movie comes out, he's going to be 78 years old. He's going to be almost 80 years old. I'm just, look, I want to see it too, but I am losing belief that it's actually going to happen. I am rapidly losing belief that it's actually going to happen. Like, to put it in perspective, Harrison Ford right now is like 10 years older than Sean Connery was when they did Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. When Sean Connery was Old Man Jones, Harrison Ford is now like 10 years older than Sean Connery was in that movie. Put that in perspective, right? So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Warrington Trainspotter 2778 writes, I'm really looking forward to watching this Captain Marvel film, but I can't believe the controversy surrounding this movie by all the insecure crybabies. Hey man, you and me both. I'm not going to go into the whole thing again. You know how I feel about this. People with common sense need to trump over the people with the irrational, weak, cupcake betas out there. And just people with common sense and calm, rational thinking need to prevail. But you know my thought on that, and I'm not going to go into the whole thing again. But I completely agree. Now look, none of that changes anything, though, about whether the movie's good or bad. Because look, every movie has a chance to suck, and that includes Captain Marvel. And look, like I called earlier, I have not been tremendously impressed with the marketing campaign for this movie. I just haven't. I wanted to be, but I haven't. And yeah, we're hearing a lot of great positive buzz about it. Great. Wonderful. That means there's a decent chance it's probably good, but it doesn't guarantee it. It doesn't guarantee it. And none of the positive well-wishing will change a thing if the movie sucks. None of the crybaby stuff will mean a thing if the movie's great. It all comes down to whether the movie's good or not. And no matter how much people want to hate on it before it comes out, and no matter how much people want to defend it before it comes out, none of that means anything unless the movie's good. And it's got to be good. And look, Steven Spielberg, I believe, is the greatest filmmaker of all time. Even Steven Spielberg has had a bad day at the office. A lot of people like Terminal. I thought Terminal was terrible. I mean, and who knows? Maybe Captain Marvel is Marvel's Terminal. Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. But it all comes down to whether the movie's any good or not. And I'll at least be able to put my own opinion to that after I see the movie tomorrow. But until then, it's just a lot of, pointless speculation based on things that don't even have anything to do with the movie. So there it is. Let's see. Nate Smith writes, physical media is closely priced to digital. Doesn't make sense. No shipping or packaging. Physical media price costs makes sense. Digital should be cheaper. According to who though, Nate? Like, look, I'm okay with the pricing on it because it costs $20, depending on where you live, $10, $15, whatever. Let's say you live in a place where it costs $12 to go to a movie. For you to go to the movie theater and watch a movie once, $12. Now, you can own the movie for $22 and you can watch it anytime you want. Why should it be cheaper than that? Why should it be cheaper? Like when they put hundreds of millions of dollars and spend years of their life and all that kind of stuff into making this thing, why should you be able to own it or I be able to own it for any less than that? Especially if there's high demand for it. Why should it be cheaper? If anything, physical media should have been more expensive. Physical media should have been more expensive. Now, do they have bigger profit margins on digital? Yes. but that doesn't mean they should automatically lower their prices. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a consumer. I want lower prices. Yes, but I don't know that we can make a valid argument that they should make it cheaper. Well, hey, look, as long as we keep asking the studios to make movies that cost $200 million to make, is it unreasonable to say, okay, now that you can own it and you can watch it 1,000 times, is it unreasonable to say, hey, $20 for you to own it? Is that unreasonable? A movie that cost years to make, cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make and market and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I honestly don't feel, and look, I buy a lot of movies on digital streaming. I buy a lot of movies on digital streaming. I don't think they're unreasonably priced. I don't think they're unreasonably priced. And by the way, the profit margins for studios on physical media has always been pretty thin. When you count the printing, the production, the shipping, all that kind of stuff, their profit margins have been thin. Now they have a way to have reasonable profit margins on these things. And I've never felt like I was overpaying for media. I've never felt like I was overpaying for it. I mean, it was different when Blu-rays first came out and they were asking you to spend like $38 for a Blu-ray disc. Okay, yeah, then, but for streaming stuff, no, I'm okay. I'm okay with it as a consumer. I'm okay with it. Remember, I don't get free movies or anything like that. Like I buy my media like everybody else. I've never felt like they overcharge. Not when you're considering the product that you're getting and what it costs them to make that product. So I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I mean, I'll be happy if they lower the prices a bit, but I'm not in a position as a consumer to say they should be cheaper. I'm not kind of there because I know how much it costs. I know the type of financial risks they take to make these movies. And to want a reasonable profit margin on their stuff, I think that's okay. I think it's okay. But hey, I wouldn't be opposed to cheaper prices either. Richard Karate writes, best Chuck Norris movie. Ooh. Best Chuck Norris movie. You know, let me just bring up a list here because I'm afraid I'm going to say one and then regret it. Now, obviously, he's got a couple of franchises, right? There are a couple of franchises. So you had the Delta Force franchise. You had the Missing in Action franchise. You had... I'm not going to count Expendables because he was just... I might have to go for Delta Force. Octagon, Delta Force 2, Force of 1, Missing in Action 2. I'm going to go the first Delta Force. I'm going to stick with the first Delta Force. Now, here's the thing. You may ask me that question again next week, and I may give a totally different answer. But right now, I'm kind of in a Delta Force kind of mood. Luke Blackwell writes, what's your opinion on UFC 235 co-main and main? Well, I already said it a little bit earlier, Luke. I said right from the moment that they announced the John Jones Anthony Smith fight that Anthony Smith did not deserve a title shot in the least. He had no business being in a title shot. The dude has 13 losses on his record without any big marquee wins. And the recognizable names that he's won were over guys who were way past their prime. Yeah, he beat Rashad Evans when Rashad Evans hadn't won a fight in years. Yeah, he beat Shogun Rua, but Shogun Rua was way past his prime when he beat him. I mean, he had no business being in the ring in a title fight. None. And the fight turned out to be pretty boring. The Usman-Woodley fight was great. Totally surprising. It was very one-sided, but it shocked me so much. So I was tremendously entertained by it. But can this now put to rest? There were some people after a couple of title defenses, people saying, oh, is Woodley the greatest welterweight of all time? Give me a break. Talk to me when he's defended the belt nearly as many times as George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre is the greatest welterweight of all time. Let's just stop any silliness discussion that claim otherwise, okay? So hopefully this slams that conversation shut. But that co-fight, but I'll tell you what though, because Alex Smith had no business being in a title fight, the Usman-Woodley fight should have been the main event. The Jones-Smith fight should have been the co-main event. The main event should have been Usman-Woodley, in my opinion. Let's see. Richard Karate writes, best karate or Kate Beckinsale acting performance. It wasn't a big role, but The Aviator. I thought she was quite good in The Aviator, and it was a small role. Hold on a second. It wasn't a massive role in The Aviator, but I really quite liked her in that, playing one of the Hepburns. Anyway, that was my favorite acting performance of hers. Now, if I look up her IMDb, hold on a second here. Let me. I'm gonna stick with Aviator. I really liked her in that one. Okay, let's see here. Jared Murray writes, what exactly do producers of a film do? They are responsible for the creation of a whole film. I'm not going to go into it in depth here, but the producers are the one who pull all the pieces together. That's why at the Academy Awards, when Best Picture gets named, it's the producer who gets it. It's the producer who secures the rights to the scripts, oversees the ordering of the script, hires the director, works out the vision of what the film is, gets all the different pieces in place. And different producers do different things, but the producer of a film, they're responsible for the whole thing. And so that's why at the Academy Awards, they're the ones who get the awards. Richard Karate writes, Xena Warrior Princess versus Red Sonja versus Lady Sif versus Valkyrie. Who wins? Your thought? Well, Xena Warrior Princess and Red Sonja don't stand a chance against Asgardians. I mean, let's just be clear. They don't stand a chance against Asgardians. So it's clearly the front two are Lady Sif and Valkyrie. Probably Valkyrie. Because they put her forward as like one of the legendary defenders of Asgard, right? So probably Valkyrie on that level. But it's easily Lady Sif or Valkyrie over Xena and Red Sonja because they're humans. And Lady Sif and Valkyrie are Asgardians who are supremely, have a lot more power and strength than regular humans. So it'd be one of those two for sure. Richard writes, Kate Beckinsale's Selena versus Mila Jovovich's Alice. Who wins? Well, Kate Beckinsale is a vampire. So Celine, yeah, I'll go with that one. Now, granted, Mila, there's a lot of stuff in that. But yeah, no, I'll definitely take Kate Beckinsale's Celine in that one. Okay, let's keep moving here. Richard follows up again with, where are we at? Holy crap. Okay, here we are. Richard writes, last question, John. Do you believe in Bigfoot? And also, Bigfoot is a large ape-like creature that invokes debates. So why have we not got more movies about him, whether they are horror or comedy or drama? There have been a number of Bigfoot things. There was actually a really fun little horror film out a number of years ago called Abominable. And, hold on a second. Now, I'm not talking about the animated film. See, Abominable. I'm not talking about it was a 2006, Matt McCoy is the guy who was in it. Matt McCoy. And it is a hilarious, but it's hilarious as a horror movie. It's like, almost unintentionally hilarious. Matt McCoy, Haley Joel. It is a fun little, kind of gory. Lance Hendrickson is in it, by the way, too. It's a 2006 film called Abominable. It's pretty nifty for a cheap, low-budget little horror film. Does not have great reviews, but I think it's a fun little film to watch with a date or a fun little film to watch with a couple of friends. It's just like this. It's 2006, but it feels like an 80s horror movie. You know what I mean? And I would say, now, do I believe in Bigfoot? I would say no, but I'm also the type of guy who's like, hey, the world is a big place, and we are constantly seeing things found that we never knew existed before. Like, the platypus wasn't a real thing until they actually discovered it, right? So, I say no, I don't believe it, but I'm one of these guys who believes the world is a big place, and I believe we haven't found and seen everything yet, so I'll leave a fraction of a thing, but generally speaking, no. And check out the 2006 film Abominable. Check it out. It's a fun little film to watch with some drinks and a couple of friends. I think you might have a good time with it, and you'll laugh a lot too. Anyway, let's move on here. Luke Blackwell writes, John, what would win in a fight to the death? A 200-pound tiger or a 200-pound spider. That isn't that from something? Is that from something? I'm not sure. I'm going to guess a 200-pound tiger. I'm going to guess a 200-pound tiger. Of course, there's no such thing as a 200-pound spider, but if one existed, it would be pretty brutal, but I'll still go with the tiger. All right, Richard Karate writes, Oda lost that last battle with Emperor Palpatine. Oh, Yoda, I think you mean. Yoda lost that last battle with Emperor Palpatine in the Senate chambers, but Mace Windu beat Palpatine and almost killed him, if not for Anakin. Does this mean that Windu is more powerful than Yoda? But you're missing a big part of that discussion, Richard. There is a large contingent of people who believe that very purposefully the Emperor let himself, that Palpatine allowed himself to be beat by Windu to set up that, because he knew that Anakin would come, and to set that whole thing up to put Anakin in that position where he had to kill Windu. Because remember, he was like, oh, I'm so weak. I'm so weak. And then as soon as Anakin made his decision, then he's suddenly like, ha ha, and he like, right. So he was rope-a-doping. He was faking it. That's the common theory. So, I believe he, because remember, look how easily he just disposed of all these Jedi Masters. These weren't just Jedi that were with Mace Windu. These were Jedi Masters, members of the Jedi Council, and he killed them all in seconds, except for Mace Windu. And the popular theory is that he allowed Mace Windu to stay alive and even allowed himself to be in a position of, oh no, I'm going to be beat by him, oh no, simply to set up that scenario with Anakin. It's part of his great manipulation. So, no, I believe Yoda is the more powerful Jedi. I think Yoda, because Yoda gave Palpatine a legit run for his money. And so I think Yoda is more powerful. Okay, Senpaigar writes, if I was Kylo Ren in The Force Awakens and felt Han Solo on Starkiller Base, I would be heading to the shield control room with all my troops and just wait there. I don't know. You're making an assumption that Kylo, knowing Han was there, Han could have had 50 different plans, right? Han could have had 50 different plans. That's one of them, but we as the audience knew what the plan was, so we just assume, there could have been a lot of different things he was there to do. He may have only been there specifically to confront Kylo, for all we know. It's just not something Kylo, I think, would have known, so I don't know. Hard to say. Okay. SH1F722 writes, was skeptical about First Man winning over Infinity War for visual effects, but after having just watched First Man, I completely understand it. Also, love the launch scene when they were going to the moon. Oh, that was crazy. Yeah, that's the thing, man. I probably myself would have given it to Infinity War, but I remember saying weeks on one of the shows, I said weeks before the Oscars, guys, do not sleep on First Man. Because the visual effects in that movie are so good, you don't even know most of the time that you're even looking at visual effects. And that's really the hallmark of a lot of great visual effects, is when the audience doesn't even know they're looking at it. That's when the visual effects have done their job. When the effects create the world and you don't even know you're not looking at something real. And that was the brilliance of First Man. It's why the visual effects artist nominated for Best Picture. It's why the Academy voted for it. And I said, while my pick would have been Infinity War, yes. I said weeks before, do not sleep on First Man. Because the visual effects in First Man are stupid good. Like stupid good. Not moderately good, not sort of good. They're stupid good. And it ended up winning. Let's see. Haskell420 writes, hey, John, Free Solo debuts 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on National Geographic 2 FX TV network. Ad, What We Do in the Shadows coming in March. They made a series. Wow. Well, you threw in a lot of stuff there, Haskell. So I am looking forward to watching Free Solo. I still haven't watched it. I'm thinking of something totally different. Sorry, yes, I've seen Free Solo. Yeah, climb. I've seen Free Solo. I was thinking, I got my wires crossed for a second. As far as What We Do in the Shadows, I don't know. I love the movie What We Do in the Shadows. Because I love the movie, I am a little bit nervous about them doing a TV show. I'm a little bit nervous about them doing a TV show and what they may end up doing with it. Maybe it'll be brilliant. Maybe it won't. I'm excited to see it, but also apprehensive and nervous all at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Haskell, I'm just I don't know, because I love the movie so much. I don't like that they've done a TV show of it, but I am excited to check it out. Maybe it'll be as good as the movie. Maybe it won't. Who knows? I'll have to wait and see. Never mind, I still don't get likes rights. Now people are blaming and boycotting Captain Marvel for Alita's box office struggles. They are? What? Okay, that makes sense. Look, I'll say this. I wouldn't doubt that, but I haven't seen anybody say, I haven't personally seen anybody say anything as dumb as, let's not go see Captain Marvel because people didn't go see Alita Battle Angel. I personally haven't seen anybody say anything that dumb. Now, as a race of human beings, we can be pretty dumb, so maybe you've seen people say that. I haven't seen anybody in a large scale say that, so I'm not going to jump on that too much because I haven't seen anybody say that. It would be ridiculous to, people didn't go see this movie. Well, then let's not go see that. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, that's pretty idiotic if that's true. But again, I haven't seen it personally. I haven't seen that personally. Okay, let's go on here. Ladislav Misanic writes, Lean on Me released, 30 years ago today. Cruel Intentions 20 years ago, and Watchmen 10. Watchmen was 10 years ago. Lean on Me 30. That's, wow. You know, that reminds me, Ladislav, you remember back on one of my old shows, I used to do a segment every week talking about the anniversaries that were being celebrated, the 10 and 20 year anniversaries. I'm thinking about bringing that segment back and doing that again on the John Campea show. Like maybe every Wednesday doing a, way back Wednesday or something, and talking about and highlighting the films that turned 10, 20, and 30 years old that week. I'm thinking about doing that. So it's kind of funny they bring that in, but yep. Watchmen is now 10 years old. Cruel Intentions 20, but wow, Lean on Me 30. If you were to ask me straight up, Ladislav, how old do you think Lean on Me? I might have said 20. I don't think I would have said 30. I think I would have been off by like 10 years. That's a big one, man. But yeah, I am thinking about bringing that segment back. Let me know if you guys think that would be an interesting one to do, or whether you think now there's no point in doing that. Let me know what you guys think. Okay, let's see. Mike Thompson writes, are you sure you want to marathon the Endgame spoiler talk? What if your voice dies on you? What if you need a food break? What if you have to poop? Please make sure you have a co-host or 3. Yeah, so what Mike's talking about is, I am thinking about doing one long, because when I did my spoiler discussion for Infinity War, I had to do it, I think I had to do it over the course of 4 or 5 videos. And at the end of it, it was probably like 8, 9, or 10 hours of stuff. And that's with me saying no more. So what I said the other day was, what I may do is, I think for Infinity War, or for Endgame, we're just going to do one long marathon spoiler discussion for Infinity War. That could be dangerous. Now, I am going to have to get somebody to do that one with me. I'll probably get Rob to do it with me, so it's not me talking straight, 8 hours without any breaks. I'll need somebody like a Robert to come in with me. And, but I think that's what we're going to go for. And look, we'll do it. And if we hit like the 5-hour mark, and I realize, oh my God, I'm not going to make it, then I'll cut it off. And I'll say, guys, I wanted to go the whole thing, but I'm not going to last. I'm fading here. I can't do it. So we will get to the rest of these questions later. For now, we got to cut it. I'll do that. Don't worry. I won't risk my own health over it. But I think if I have a partner doing it with me, I think I can make it through. I think if I have Robert, like say, and Ann with me, and we have 3 of us, I think we can do it. And we will probably take a 20-minute meal break. We'll probably get like 3 or 4 hours into it, and then we'll say, okay, guys, we're going to take a 20-minute break. We'll be back in about 15 or 20 minutes. We're going to get something to eat, use the bathroom, have a drink, relax for a minute, come back and do it. Maybe we'll do that, but yeah, we'll be up. And I'm excited. I'll tell you what, I'm just excited about it. I am excited about doing this Endgame spoiler discussion video. I'm stoked about it. I cannot wait. And I think the long marathon nature of it is one of the things speaking of long marathon, we've gone over 3.5 hours today, by the way. I'm just letting you know. This episode's already gone over 3.5 hours. Anyway, Edgar Navarro writes, have you finished Runaways? Nope. I have been sitting on the last episode of Runaways Season 2 for months now. And it was funny because Ann and I were just out like last night, and Ann goes, we still haven't watched the final episode of Runaways. I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to do it tonight. Ann and I got a quiet night in tonight. I think we're going to say, baby, let's polish off Runaways. I don't know why I haven't. I've liked this season very, very much. I don't know why I haven't finished it, but I'm going to finish it tonight. Goku on Dragon Ball Z writes, my opinion, Smallville has the best Jonathan Kent. Well, yeah, I mean, you had one of the Dukes of Hazzard in there as Pa Kent. He was a very good Pa Kent. Was it Schneider? But was it Jonathan Schneider or is it something else? I can't remember what his first name was. But anyway, one of the Dukes of Hazzard. It was a very good Pa Kent. Very good Jonathan Kent. I still prefer the Man of Steel. I still prefer the Kevin Costner Jonathan Kent. Personally, that's just me. But yeah, the Jonathan Kent of Smallville was very, very good. He was very good. And when he died on that show, that was heartbreaking. All right. Lone Wolf X6 writes, hey, John, I know you said you didn't like Arrow much after season 2, but did you like Prometheus as a villain? Comme ci, comme ça. For those of you who know French, comme ci, comme ça. All right. I wasn't thrilled with Prometheus as a villain. And I did like the first part of season 3, but then it lost me. Halfway through season 3 is when that show lost me. But yeah, I was a little, give or take a little on Prometheus, to be honest with you. A little bit comme ci, comme ça. I didn't think he was the worst villain they ever had. I don't think he was a particularly strong villain. He became rather silly to me, to be honest with you. Later on, he just got a little bit silly. But it wasn't, I'm not going to say it was a bad villain. It was, comme ci, comme ça. Lone Wolf follows up with writing, I'm 10 steps ahead of you and you haven't even figured out what game we're playing yet. Prometheus. That's a cool line. That's a cool line. Again, I don't know that I particularly, like, let's put it this way. He was a better villain than, say, DeVoe was in Flash last season, right? He was a better villain than that. But I don't think he was anywhere near as good of a villain as the Dragon, right? Or, say, why am I forgetting his name? The Dark Archer from the first couple of seasons. Anyway, Malcolm, from Malcolm Merlin. I didn't think he was nearly as good of a villain as Malcolm or anything like that, but it is what it is. Roman Bryant writes, ever see the 90s Spider-Man cartoon? I've seen a little bit of it. I wasn't a fan. Look, I've said before, the vast majority of the Marvel and DC animated stuff I find is utter crap. And I know a lot of you guys like that stuff, and that's great. But if I'm being honest, I find most of it to be unwatchable crap. And I was not impressed with the 90s Spider-Man stuff. But then again, full disclosure, I only saw a little bit of it, but I just didn't like what I saw. Mishta47 writes, you get digital copies with Blu-rays anyway. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what people are saying, right? And, DC Patience brought up earlier in the show a really good point that, hey, get on that. Make sure you redeem those digital codes because they do have an expiry date. So make sure you get on it. Don't miss a chance to get your digital copy. Get on that. Make sure you get that. And do they come with every movie? I'm not sure if they come with it. But by the way, I remember talking about this a couple years ago. That was just an indication that Hollywood was preparing the consumers to transition to digital streaming. Them putting in those digital codes was them telling us a long time ago, folks, the entertainment world is changing. We're moving from physical media to streaming. So if you buy this digital copy, thank you. Here's a digital streaming thing. Get ready because that's where we're heading. So that was them telling us that a long time ago. Victor Watson writes, speaking of Blu-rays, I bought Overlord 4K Ultra. I liked Overlord a lot. Then I also got it on digital on my Amazon account because I knew there's time I don't get to grab the disc to put it in, LOL. That's hardcore, Victor. That's when you like a movie a lot. When you not only go out and get the one copy, you make sure you got the other copy because, it's funny because Robert Meyer Burnett, he mentioned on the show the other day that, he loves Infinity War and he's got the 4K Blu-ray of it, right? But he said most of the time when I pop it on, I just pop it on Netflix because I don't want to get up and go put it in. I just grab my remote control and hit play, right? Isn't that the way we do it? Isn't that the way of things? So it's true. It's true. So you are not alone, Victor. You're not. And by the way, why did more people not go see Overlord? That was a fun little flick. That was kind of unique and was kind of different and very visceral and exciting, and we had the right humor in the right spots, and that was a movie that did not get its just due. More people should have gone to see Overlord. I actually quite enjoyed that film, and I wish more people had seen it. So I'm glad you did, Victor, and I'm glad you're supporting the film still. All right. NPE94 writes, thrilled BBC are making his Dark Materials series. Yeah, I'm curious to see how that turns out. Now look, I've said for a long time, I'm not the biggest fan of his Dark Materials. I know there's a lot of people that love the series, and that's great. Never quite worked for me nearly as well. I am curious to see what they do with it, though. And I'm glad somebody's giving it a shot, because I know there have been a lot of fans who have been wanting to see this, and so I'm glad BBC is stepping up to the plate and doing that, and I'm curious to see how that turns out. Lone Wolf X6 writes, I wanted to, and I liked it. Powerful arrow scene with Prometheus is torturing Oliver about his secret. I'll be honest with you, Lone Wolf, I didn't dig that scene. I didn't dig it. Yeah, it didn't work for me nearly as well. And it's the old stereotype. Why doesn't the villain just kill the hero? This old tired trope was, no, I can't kill him. I need to break him. And then they ultimately get beat by the hero. I never bought into Prometheus's wanted to break him thing. Again, I love that you loved it. That's awesome. Didn't work for me, though. Did not work for me on that level. Again, I don't think particularly bad. Certainly better than like DeVoe on Flash, but never quite worked for me on the same level that it clearly worked for you. But I'm glad that it worked for you on that level, and that's great. Darklock63 writes, warning, Polar has some serious pacing issues. Yeah, that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier, that I've wanted to see Polar for a long time. I think the trailers look amazing. But what you're saying, Darklock, is something I've been hearing from other people as well, that the movie has its issues, not the least of which are some pacing issues. So I haven't seen it yet myself, but I am going to get around to watching it here pretty soon. And hopefully I like it. But yeah, I'm hearing some people caution me about it, even though the trailers looks great. Lone Wolf follows up with, I wanted to, wait a second, didn't we just have that? I see what you're saying. I wanted to, and I liked it, or I beat you. Which was more powerful than you? Oh, easy. The Daredevil I beat you scene, easy. I was, again, like I said, I wasn't all that impressed with that whole setup with in Arrow with Prometheus and him and saying, oh, I like doing it. Okay, yeah, I get it. But it feels like Oliver has had that moment 8 times in this series. Seriously, I feel like they've done that scene with like Oliver realizing, wait a minute, I do have a dark side. I feel like they've done that scene many, many, many times. But anyway, but yeah, the Daredevil, I beat you. I think that scene was vastly superior. But again, that's just my opinion. But you asked me my opinion. That's my opinion on that. Okay, Victor Watson writes, where are we at here? I think Kraft wasn't thinking with the right head when he chose Florida. Again, I just don't get it. Why? Why, Victor? You're one of the richest guys in the world. Why don't you just go to the Nevada? Or go to Amsterdam. Go to the red light district in Amsterdam if you want to. Why? Put yourself at legal risk. It's just why smart people do such stupid things will always be beyond me. And you're right, he was thinking with the wrong head. But why did even that head take him somewhere else? Okay, last 2 questions. And I'm just about done here, guys. Last 2 questions. Alex Von Gollum writes, In my Ant-Man's first watch, the Michael Douglas opening scene got me. His performance of how his work was used by Howard Stark. Love those MCU nuggets. Oh, I do too. Again, one of the things that has made the MCU work and work so well is the fact that Kevin Feige constantly keeps the focus on the characters. And when you keep the focus on the characters as opposed to the action, you get those great moments. And when you get those great moments, it gives the action all the more oomph, if you know what I mean. You guys have heard me say this before, but action without narrative purpose is just visual noise. A great example of that is a number of the Transformers movies. Action, even if it's great action, without narrative purpose is just visual noise. When you do what the MCU has done and kept all the focus and the attention on developing characters and giving them their motivations, blah, blah, when they then get involved in action, it gives narrative purpose to the action and it heightens the experience of the action threefold. In my opinion, at least at any rate. And it's little moments like that, Alex, that I think is a real testimony to that and why I appreciate it as much as I did. And I love that first Ant-Man movie. I just love it. Final question of the day, guys. 3 hours and 45 minutes into it. Final question of the day comes to us from Haskell420, who writes, wow, 25th anniversary of John Candy's passing. What a loss. That is crazy. That was 25 years ago. I still remember hearing that because John Candy was like very much a Canadian treasure. With his SCTV days and all that kind of stuff. He was one of the owners of the Toronto Argonauts for a while. He was a CFL professional football team owner for a while. I think him and Wayne Gretzky were like partners, or at any rate. It's hard to believe that was 25 years ago. Hard to believe, man. Hard to believe. And you're right, it was a huge loss. It was a huge loss. All right, guys. Whew. That will do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Thank you to all of you for being here with me, having a weekend where we can talk about our favorite things in the world. And thank you guys for supporting the channel with the super chats and by giving us topics, great things to talk about here along the way. I appreciate you guys so much, and I love that I got a group of people I can get together with every day and talk about the movies. It's always a good day. So guys, thanks so much for being here. Don't forget, tomorrow, a new episode of the John Campea Show hits. Of course, Monday through Friday, we've got it. Me, Robert, will be here talking about all the latest news. I'm working on some stories right now that we're going to be talking about tomorrow. Make sure you join us then for that. That'll do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. My throat is just about gone. My name is John Campea. Until our next show, thanks a lot, guys.